The scorching, hot September sun hung like a red, hot branding iron, burning straight into the backs of the freshmen. On the drill ground of Jianghai University, military training formations resembled wilted blocks of tofu. Muffled groans rose every now and then. Lin Shen stood in formation, dark sweat stains spreading across the back of his camouflage uniform. I'm dying. I can't take it anymore. I'm going to dry out completely. The heavy, set boy in front groaned weakly. You're joking. Look at your size. Even if all of us turn into dried up husks, you'll still be fine, right? Think of it as weight loss. Your chest is almost bigger than the girls. Ha ha ha, exactly. That's so true. Shut up, everyone. Anyone else talking gets an extra hour of standing at attention. The field fell dead silent at once. Lin Shen said nothing. He stared up toward the sky, squinting against the blinding sunlight. An airplane streaked across the bright, blue heavens, leaving two long white contrails behind it. All of a sudden, dark, gray clouds rolled in fast like an endless curtain, swallowing the sky completely. Daylight faded instantly. Whoa, look at those heavy storm clouds. We're in for a downpour. Someone shouted in surprise from the crowd. Sir, call us dismissed. We're going to get soaked. Commotion swept through the ranks. The chief instructor roared through his megaphone. Quiet. You are not ordinary students right now. You are soldiers. Soldiers do not fear rain. Stand fast. No sooner had he finished speaking than a drop of bright, red liquid splattered onto his megaphone, burning a hole straight through it. Then fine drops of crimson fluid began to fall from above, mixed with charred feathers and half-melted bird bones. It was obvious that this red liquid was contaminated avian blood, highly corrosive. Screams of terror erupted everywhere. The drill ground boiled with panic. People struck by the red liquid shrieked in agony. Look, what is that? A student pointed skyward and yelled at the top of his lungs. A plane, it's a plane. It's falling. Run. Take cover nearby. Crouch. Cover your heads. The instructor's voice cracked with desperation. Nobody listened. Students scattered like panicked sheep. Some knocked others over, while many fell and got trampled underfoot. Lin Shen ran amid the stampeding crowd. A drop of corrosive bird blood hit the nape of his neck. Agonizing pain knocked him unconscious immediately. Boom. A deafening explosion echoed overhead. The aircraft bloomed into a fireball, trailing thick smoke as it plummeted toward the city skyline. Fear spread rapidly. Screams, sobs, and the hoarse shouts of instructors trying to restore order blended together. Amid the chaos, a cold mechanical voice boomed inside every person's mind. Deep Blue System initiated scanning biological subjects. Scan complete deployment protocol activated. Everything went black before their eyes. When Lin Shen opened his eyes again, dim, shifting shades of deep blue filled his vision. Ice, cold seawater wrapped around his whole body. Crushing water pressure pressed against him from all directions, and a dull hum throbbed inside his eardrums. Lin Shen instinctively held his breath and raised his hands toward his face, but his fingers met hard material instead of his skin. Forcing himself to stay calm, he took stock of his situation. A breathing mask covered his face. A thin hose ran from the mask to a palm-sized canister clipped to his waist. This must be an oxygen mask, Lin Shen thought. He stopped holding his breath and breathed normally through the apparatus. How did I end up here? Now that he was not in immediate danger, Lin Shen tried to piece together what had happened. He lifted his right hand to touch the nape of his neck. I remember getting hit by that corrosive blood. Why isn't there any injury? He could make no sense of it, utterly confused. At that moment, ding, an emotionless mechanical voice resounded directly inside his head. Deep Blue System fully activated. Welcome, survivors, to the undersea survival game. Important notice. Poison fog completely covers everything above sea level. All terrestrial ecosystems have been destroyed. This fog is extremely corrosive. Do not attempt to surface. The poison fog dissolves in water and will spread downward 200 meters every month. Your sole objective is to keep descending deeper into the ocean. Every survivor has been randomly dropped across global ocean waters. You have all received a Tier 1 submarine, an automatic mastery of all submarine-related knowledge. A Tier 1 submarine can only dive to a maximum depth of 150 meters. Deep sea survival begins now. To live, upgrade your submarine. The mental voice faded away. What? Where is my submarine? Lin Shen's heart pounded heavily in the frigid seawater. He looked around. Visibility under the water was poor. Far in the distance, several circular shapes moved clumsily. Faint beams swept across the seabed. Are those Tier 1 submarines? He glanced down at the oxygen canister on his waist, his heart sinking. Once more, the system voice chimed. Ding! World Chat Channel opened. Regional Chat Channel opened. Trading Post unlocked. Upgrade. Crafting interface unlocked. Personal profile may be accessed at any time. A translucent interface popped up before Lin Chen's eyes. He opened the world chat. This tier 1 sub is tiny. Only 1 seat. You can barely turn around inside. Poison fog. Are you kidding? I was halfway through my ranked match. I was about to hit Grandmaster. This can't be happening. Help. I have thalassophobia. Anyone want to team up? Urgent. I want to go home. Stay calm, everyone. Open your upgrade panel and check required materials. Gather resources right away. Messages flooded the chat non-stop. Lin Chun hung suspended in cold seawater, quickly scanning the flood of messages. A grim realization dawned on him. Everyone else had a tier 1 submarine, except for him. All he possessed was an oxygen mask. A tiny blue-lit digital screen on the side of his waist. Mounted tank read 25:47, counting down second by second. That's my remaining oxygen. Only 25 minutes left. The world chat kept scrolling. Then a red pin notice caught everybody's attention. System announcement, player Lin Chun, vehicle binding failure. Initial item, oxygen mask. Wow, what terrible luck. Guess I shouldn't complain so much. Can this system even glitch? That's absurd. At Lin Chun, are you still alive? Say something. Just an oxygen mask, how long can that last? Man, hang in there. Most players felt sympathy, mixed with quiet relief that such catastrophic misfortune had not befallen them. In the wake of global disaster, seeing someone far worse off brought a strange measure of comfort. Lin Chun closed the world chat silently, his emotions tangled. Friend requests poured in, and he rejected all of them. They just want to gawk at my bad luck. Enough of that. Let me look into upgrading. He steeled himself and pulled up the upgrade panel, and nearly despaired. The interface was blank. Without a submarine, he had no way to perform upgrades. Lin Chun stared at the translucent system UI, fingers hovering in mid-air for a long time without moving. He slowly exhaled a stream of bubbles and forced himself to calm down. Stay calm. There has to be a way. He went through every single system menu one by one. Personal profile name. Lin Chun submarine tier. None equipment. Oxygen mass pressure resistance rating. 10 meters skills. None talents. None. System inventory. 6 slots holds consumables and materials. Items activated on click. Inventory expands with submarine tier. Trading post. No listings available. Finally, he opened the equipment crafting tab. His eyes widened the instant the page loaded. Tier 1 diving suit craftable required materials. Oxygen mass times 1 owned. Common fiber times 50 harvest from seaweed. Crab shell fragments times 30 dropped by crab. Type marine beasts. Common core times 20 low probability drop when defeating tier 1 marine beasts. Description: tier 1 diving suit. Pressure resistance 50 meters. Maximum oxygen storage 24 hours. Oxygen can be replenished by harvesting marine plants. Lin Chun read the description 3 times to make sure he was not imagining it. The oxygen mask is a required crafting component for the diving suit. Does that mean I am the only one who can craft this suit right now? He lifted a hand and touched the mask on his face. Its hard plastic casing felt faintly warm beneath his fingertips. As if responding to his touch, Lin Chun clenched his fists. Hope remained. He closed the interface and surveyed his surroundings. He rested on an open sandy seabed. Dozens of meters away stretched a dense seaweed forest, giant strands rising all the way upward toward the surface. Broad fronds swayed gently with ocean currents, sunlight filtering through leaves to cast dappled light across the sand. Like a primeval jungle submerged underwater, Lin Chun swam toward the edge of the seaweed forest. After arriving, he took time to relieve himself. While doing so, a troubling thought crossed his mind. Once I craft the diving suit, eating will be easy, store food in inventory, and consume it with 1 click. But how will I handle bodily waste? That is a real problem. Small fish swarmed over his waist in the water. Lin Chun finished quickly, tore off a sheet of seaweed to clean himself. Ding! Obtained common fiber times 10, oxygen supply plus 10 minutes. Talent, lucky aura awakened. Skill, lucky critical strike acquired. Lin Chun blinked in shock. What on earth? He immediately reopened his personal profile. The previously empty talent and skill sections were now populated. Talent, lucky aura. Effect, 10, fold item drop quantity. Chance to receive unexpected bonus loot. Skill, lucky critical strike active. Gain lucky points by defeating marine beasts. 1 point for tier 1 beasts, 2 points for tier 2 beasts, and so forth. Once 100 lucky points are accumulated, the skill may be activated manually. Up to 3 charges may be stored. Skill effects. Activate during combat for special enhanced drops. Activate during crafting/upgrading for double success chance. Activate in combat for a chance to double attack power. Lin Shun read the descriptions, feeling newly optimistic. Surviving deep sea conditions might not be impossible. He cleaned himself thoroughly and began gathering large quantities of seaweed. Even with his 10-fold drop bonus, base drop rates stayed unchanged. After harvesting nearly 50 seaweed fronds, he only collected 100 units of common fiber and gained 100 extra minutes of oxygen. Ugh, I thought I would get overpowered right away. Drop rates are still so low. Though the base chance had not risen, his total yield was already 10 times what an ordinary survivor would get. He was simply failing to appreciate his advantage. Deciding not to gather more seaweed, Lin Shun noted 100 common fiber satisfied his immediate needs, and his total oxygen of over 110 minutes should give him enough time to collect remaining materials. He searched the sandy ground along the sea, weed fringe for more than 10 minutes, and spotted a small crab emerging from the sand, roughly the size of his palm. Grabbing a rock from the seabed, he crept forward cautiously, careful not to alarm the creature. He moved directly behind the crab. It had not noticed him. Lin Shun smashed down with all his strength. The strike missed, and the crab vanished instantly by burrowing back under sand. Fighting underwater came with heavy resistance. Even his hardest swings moved slowly, making it extremely difficult to hit agile sea creatures. Locating crabs proved trickier than expected. Another 10 minutes passed before he found a second specimen beside a rock. A sawtooth crab nearly as big as his head. Its thick shell glinted dimly in the dim water, and two massive pincers waved warily. Lin Shun drew a deep breath, lifted a rock as big as a wash basin. Underwater, the weight was far more manageable than it would have been on land. He advanced slowly, hunched low. The sawtooth crab reacted faster than anticipated. Before he could close in fully, one huge pincer swept sideways, grazing his calf. Sharp pain shot through him, yet Lin Shun held his ground. Using his momentum, he brought the heavy rock crashing onto the crab's shell. A dull thud echoed through the water, and a thin crack appeared across the carapace. Enraged, the crab flailed wildly, churning sand into murky clouds. Lin Shun pressed the heavy rock down to trap it and keep it from escaping. Grabbing a smaller fist-sized stone in his free hand, he hammered repeatedly. 1 blow, 2 blows, 3 blows. Gradually the crab's struggles weakened until it went still. Defeated sawtooth hermit crab. Loot received. Crab meat times 10, crab shell fragments times 10, common core times 10. Relieved that the fight had not been in vain, Lin Shun sank weakly onto the sand. His calf burned with pain, and faint blood tinted the surrounding seawater. Damn, that blood could attract sharks. I need to get away from here fast. He bound his calf wound loosely with seaweed and swam dozens of meters away, hiding among a cluster of rocks. I have to finish making the diving suit quickly. I cannot keep surviving exposed in open water. Regaining his resolve, he searched along the rock edges. Almost an hour later, after defeating 5 crabs in total, he obtained crab meat times 20, crab shell fragments times 20, and common core times 10. He still needed 10 more common cores. His lucky points rose to 6. Common cores drop so rarely. I thought I would collect all materials while hunting crabs. Fighting crabs is exhausting. I should hunt a different tier, 1 marine beast instead. Lin Shun rested among the rocks and retightened the makeshift bandage on his leg. Opening the system, provided biological bestiary, he scanned tier 1 creatures inhabiting the sunlit upper zone. Rainbow fish swarms, sawtooth hermit crabs, electric jellyfish, spiny pufferfish, and blue, scaled sea snakes. Rainbow fish swarms would be impossible to catch. He had grown tired of fighting sawtooth crabs. Spiny pufferfish and blue, scaled sea snakes sounded highly dangerous. The entry for electric jellyfish noted their 1.5-meter umbrella bell, translucent bodies, paralyzing tentacle venom, and very low movement speed. Reading that detail, Lin Shun made up his mind immediately. That is my target. Closing the bestiary, he swam toward the dimmer waters at the sea-forest boundary. After roughly 10 minutes swimming, he spotted his quarry, a translucent umbrella-shaped creature suspended in the water. Pale blue fluorescence glowed along the rim of its bell ribbon, like tentacles drifting softly with currents. Lin Shun held back from attacking straight away. Circling to its rear flank, he picked up a rock from the seabed and hurled it toward the edge of the jellyfish bell. The stone struck home, tearing an opening in its tissue. The electric jellyfish contracted violently, shooting backward several meters. 2 tentacles lashed toward him like whips. Lin Shun dodged one, but the second whipped against his arm. Numbing paralysis spread across half his body, leaving that arm completely useless. Damn. Gritting his teeth, he backed away. More tentacles pursued, one coiling tightly around his ankle. Numbness crept upward along his leg. With his functional hand, he scrabbled on the seabed and grasped a sharp, broken seashell. Summoning every ounce of strength, he sliced through the tentacle wrapped around his ankle. Blue bodily fluid billowed out into the water. Hurt, the jelly-fish recoiled. Lin Shen snatched up his rock and smashed it repeatedly into the gash on its bell. One blow, two blows. On the third strike, the bell split wide open. Its fluorescent light dimmed rapidly, and the jelly-fish drifted downward toward the seabed. Defeated electric jellyfish. Loot received. Jellyfish belt tissue times 10, common core times 10. Lin Shen collapsed onto the sand, half his body still tingling with numbness. Thank goodness. One kill gave me exactly what I needed. That paralysis was terrifying. Rubbing his still, numb arm, he squeezed into a sheltered rock crevice and opened the crafting interface. All required materials satisfied. Craft Tier 1 diving suit. He drew a deep breath and confirmed. Warmth spread outwards across his face. His oxygen mask began vibrating softly. Its plastic surface shifted and expanded as though alive. Shoulder padding extended outward from either side of the mask, molding against his shoulders. Chest plating grew downward from the base of the mask, covering his chest and back. A soft click came from his waist, mounted oxygen assembly. The single hose port transformed into dual connections. The whole process took roughly 2 minutes. Ding! Tier 1 diving suit crafted successfully. Pressure resistance increased to 50 meters. Swimming speed increased to 4 kilometers per hour. Maximum oxygen storage increased to 24 hours. Waste management module installed. Bodily functions can be performed safely inside the diving suit. Lin Shen shook his head at the new feature, then looked down at his brand new diving suit. His will to survive burned brighter than ever. He swam out of the rock crevice and harvested nearby seaweed to top off his oxygen reserves fully. Ready to venture downward into deeper waters, he found movement far easier inside the suit. The fabric reduced water resistance and retained body heat, driving away the bone-chilling cold of the ocean. He swam downwards for 20-odd minutes, until the wreckage of a small cargo vessel came into view. It lay tilted, half buried in sand, its deck draped in dark green algae. Lin Shen swam cautiously inside. Several discarded medical crates caught his eye. Overjoyed, he hurried toward them. Medical supplies were exactly what he needed with his ongoing injuries. To his disappointment, every crate stood empty. Medicines and equipment had already been looted by someone else. Are you kidding me? Someone got here first and left nothing. A stream of bubbles escaped through his suit's exhaust vent as he swore. He continued searching the wreck and finally found something useful. A single bottle of mineral water. Storing it inside his inventory, he clicked to consume it right away, parched from exertion. Water materialized directly inside his mouth, indistinguishable from drinking normally. He then consumed portions of crab meat, which likewise appeared in his mouth. He chewed hungrily. Fresh crab meat tasted wonderful. Before long, he finished eating 10 servings. After finishing his meal, Lin Shen felt the urge to relieve himself. To his surprise, there was no uncomfortable sensation at all. Waste simply vanished into the seawater as if it had turned into thin air. A huge weight lifted off Lin Shen's chest. He swam out from the sunken ship and kept moving forward. As he brushed aside thick seaweed fronds, he froze. Through gaps in the foliage, he spotted a submarine. It was a small, rounded vessel with a dark gray hull. A searchlight mounted on top slowly swept across the seabed. Hovering a few meters away amid the seaweed, its mechanical arm pried at rocks beneath the plants, apparently gathering raw materials. Peering through the porthole, Lin Shen clearly made out a figure inside. A young woman sat in the pilot's seat, her long hair tied back, intently watching the control panel. Lin Shen instinctively pulled back deeper into the seaweed. This was his first close-up encounter with another submarine, and his first sight of another survivor. She had a fully equipped submarine with complete starting supplies. All he had was a newly crafted diving suit, and no proper weapons. The gap between them was enormous. He was about to slip away when the submarine's searchlight swung toward him. The beam landed squarely on his body for a brief moment. He had been spotted. Lin Shen's heart raced. He had no idea whether the stranger meant well or harm. Without hesitation, he turned and darted into dense seaweed. Using the plants for cover, he backed rapidly and vanished into the dark green shadows within seconds. The submarine stayed where it was. The searchlight swept back and forth over the spot where he had disappeared before switching off. Inside the cabin, Shun Lingxi frowned. She had seen it clearly, someone wearing a diving suit. Everyone else had started with a level 1 submarine. Yet this person was moving freely through the ocean in nothing but a diving suit. A name from a system announcement a few days earlier crossed her mind. Lin Chun. The notice had reported abnormal vehicle binding, stating his starting item had only been an oxygen mask. Back then she had assumed he would never survive the first day. Yet the figure she had just seen moved with ease, far from fighting on the brink of death. She wanted a second look, but he was already gone. Maybe my eyes tricked me? Shin Lingxi shook her head and resumed working the mechanical arm, digging for resources. Lin Chen swam, well clear of the seaweed forest. Only once he was certain no one was chasing him did he stop. Leaning against a rock, he caught his breath and glanced back toward where he had come from. Regaining his composure, he opened the equipment crafting interface. The icon for the level 1 diving suit sat at the center of the screen. A gray arrow pointed to a semi-transparent preview model, the level 2 diving suit. Lin Chen studied it carefully. The fabric looked far thicker than the previous version. Reinforced padding protected the shoulders and knees, and fine glowing energy circuits ran across the chest, shimmering faintly in the dim undersea light. He tapped the icon. Level 2 diving suit craftable required materials. Level 1 diving suit times 1 owned. Common fiber times 100 obtained by harvesting seaweed. Common energy core times 50 dropped by electric jellyfish. Common crystal core times 50 dropped by first-order sea beasts. Description: Level 2 diving suit. Pressure resistance: 150 meters. Maximum oxygen storage: 48 hours. Movement speed increased by 20%. Lin Chen opened his system backpack. Common fiber times 1500 gathered while refilling oxygen right after finishing his level 1 suit. Crab meat times 20. Jellyfish essence times 10. Common energy core times 10 luckily collected earlier. Half bottle of mineral water. Staring at his single remaining backpack slot, he frowned. Storage is barely enough right now. I hope crafting the level 2 suit expands my inventory. This is really inconvenient. He pulled up the world channel to see how other survivors were faring. Messages flooded the screen, posted by survivors speaking different languages across various time zones. He scrolled patiently through them. Does upgrading to level 2 really need this many materials? Has anybody finished gathering everything? Not a chance. I still haven't collected enough sawtooth crab claws. Drop rates are terrible. Tell me about it. I killed 8 blue-scaled snakes and only got 2 units of snake skin. It's so frustrating. Hunting snakes with a mechanical arm is awful. 8 kills for 2 drops. Quit complaining. 15 snakes and I only got 3. Beat that. Enough whining. I'm still mining alloy on the reef flats. The real problem is crystal cores. Drop rates are ridiculous. I've killed more than a dozen pufferfish and haven't seen a single crystal core. +1. Plus 10,086. Does anyone think we can hit level 2 in half a month? In a month, the whole 200-meter zone will be uninhabitable. If we can't upgrade within 2 weeks, we're as good as dead. After this post appeared, the channel fell quiet for several seconds. Stay calm, everyone. It's only day 1. Keep working. I bet no one reaches level 2 within a week. Drop rates are insane. I bet 3 days. What if there's some overpowered player? Nice dream. Even superhumans need sleep. Just calculate how long farming these materials will take. Lin Chen scrolled for 10 minutes, skimming most posts. Upgrading a level 2 submarine really demands huge amounts of materials. He closed the world channel and opened the regional channel, hoping for useful local intelligence. Anyone got extra mineral water? I'll trade common alloy for it. Alloy is worthless. Show me crystal cores, and we can make a deal. I'm sick of this place. Nothing but seaweed and sand all around. No one to talk to. You want conversation? Whenever I spot another human, my first move is to run. Some guy pretended to team up just to rob me earlier. Seriously? That ruthless? Absolutely. Right here in our region. Everyone watch yourselves. When will this suffering end? Has anyone seen Lin Chen? Supposedly he's somewhere in our zone. Never seen him. He's probably dead already. Makes sense. No submarine, poor guy. Quit pitying other people. Worry about staying alive first. Lin Chen pouted. With my incredible luck, I'm not dying that easily. He read dozens more messages, but found nothing valuable. Closing the interface, he clenched his fist. Time to get to work. Drawing on his past experience hunting jellyfish, he spent the entire day smashing 30 of them with rocks. He slept in a cave for a break and finished his half bottle of water and all 20 portions of crab meat. Without fresh water, his throat burned with thirst. Farming complete. His inventory now held common fiber times 1500, jellyfish essence times 130, common energy core times 130, common crystal core times 50. His luck value climbed to 37 points. Shaking his sore hands, Lin Shan opened the system menu and began crafting the Level 2 diving suit. Minutes later, a system notification chimed. Ding! Level 2 diving suit upgrade successful. Pressure resistance increased to 150 meters. Maximum oxygen storage increased to 48 hours. Swimming speed increased to 7.2 kilometers per hour. New built-in lighting module. Chest-mounted high-power flashlight. Consumes 1 common energy core every 24 hours. Not bad, finally have a light source. But I'm dying of thirst. Where can I get fresh water? Lin Shan checked the trade marketplace for water, yet no listings existed. Everyone is short on water too. He searched system menus for water acquisition methods and learned fresh water could be harvested from giant sea coconuts growing among coral reefs. Lin Shan immediately pulled up the location of nearby coral reefs and swam toward them. He had barely reached the reef edge when rhythmic thuds traveled through seawater, startling him. Following the sound, he spotted a submarine 10 meters ahead. It hovered above the coral reef. Side thrusters occasionally released small bubbles to hold its position. Its mechanical arm chipped away at a huge mineral deposit below. Each strike only knocked off fragments the size of fingernails. The pilot inside was clearly growing desperate. The arm moved faster and faster, yet grew less effective. Several blows missed entirely. The jaws scraped against rock, sending showers of sparks swirling through the water. Lin Shan recognized this submarine, the same vessel he had spotted near the sunken wreck. He looked through the porthole and saw the familiar young woman. Her again. How do I keep running into her? Is she following me? He quickly dismissed the thought. His small diving-suited silhouette would be nearly impossible to track underwater. Maybe it's just fate. Why do I keep crossing paths with her and no one else? He hung back and observed. Once more the mechanical arm missed. This time its jaws jammed deep inside a rock crevice. The second arm braced against stone as the submarine pulled backward hard. The whole craft tilted, yet the trapped arm would not budge an inch. The woman inside froze. She reversed and rotated the controls repeatedly. Metal screeched from the arm's joints. Still stuck fast. Lin Shan watched the submarine strain fruitlessly for several seconds, sighed softly, and swam over. He reached the submarine and peered through the porthole. The woman bit her lip, fingers flying across the control panel. Sweat beaded on her forehead, while metal screamed from the jammed arm. Swimming around to the other side of the rock formation, Lin Shan studied the jam. The jaws were wedged tight between two rocks. The harder one pulled, the firmer it locked. He dived down beside the crack, gripped rock edges on either side of the jaws, and tested the rock. Solid overall, yet parts of the fissure were loose. Bracing his feet against stone, he grasped rock fragments along the crevice and pried outward. Water resistance made every movement exhausting, but he persisted, slowly widening the gap. Inside the cabin, Shen Lingxi stared out at the figure outside, clad in the thicker-looking new diving suit. He moved through the rocks with the agility of a fish. After almost 2 minutes of prying, Lin Shan made the opening wide enough for the jaws to slip free. He let go and gestured toward the porthole, signaling for her to pull. Taken aback for a moment, Shen Lingxi quickly operated her controls. The mechanical arm rotated smoothly and slid out of the crevice. The submarine was free once more. Shen Lingxi looked out at him through the porthole. Her lips moved as though she wanted to speak. Without lingering, Lin Shan turned away and swam toward another section of the coral reef, soon disappearing from view. Gone again. Am I really that intimidating? Shen Lingxi muttered, staring toward his vanishing trail with a complicated expression. 50 meters further out, Lin Shan prepared to resume searching for giant sea coconuts. Abnormal water currents surged from his side and behind. He spun around, eyes widening in alarm. A dark gray shark glided out from seaweed shadows. Its streamlined body gleamed cold under dim undersea light. Empty black eyes locked directly onto him. The shark measured at least 4 meters long. Dark cyan bony plates ran along its back, mutated natural armor. Its protruding lower jaw held 2 rows of dagger-sharp teeth. Lin Shan instantly recalled the creature entry. Third-order sea beast, iron jaw shark. Damn! He spun and fled. He raced toward the nearest cluster of rocks. His level 2 diving suit let him swim at 2 meters per second. Faster than professional human divers. But sharks easily reached 5 to 10 meters per second. A single flick of its tail sent it surging forward like a dark gray lightning bolt. Lin Shan could feel the predator closing in. He swam for all he was worth, scanning his surroundings. Ahead lay jumbled rock formations crisscrossed by narrow gaps and tunnels. He darted straight for one opening just large enough for his body and squeezed inside. The charging shark slammed hard against the rock face. The surrounding stones shook violently as though struck by an earthquake. Deep inside the fissure, Lin Chen leaned against rock walls, gasping for breath. That was too close, he whispered, heart hammering wildly. The shark patrolled outside for minutes, apparently waiting for him to emerge. Eventually it flicked its tail and swam away. Lin Chen stayed completely still, his heart pounding in his throat. More than 10 minutes passed before he slowly calmed down. Using the bright chest-mounted flashlight, he noticed the fissure extended deeper than expected. Squeezing further inward, he discovered a natural cavern roughly 10 square meters in size. Blue-glowing bioluminescent moss-coated cave walls, casting soft, cool light. Rock debris and sediment littered corners. As Lin Chen scanned the space, something in the far corner caught his eye. A metal chest half a meter long sat there, its surface spotless, gleaming golden under the beam. Lin Chen swam closer. Words were stamped onto the lid, "Intermediate supply crate." His pulse quickened. He pressed the release button on its side, and the lid swung open. Inside rested a pale blue glowing blueprint etched with intricate patterns, depicting a trident. The moment Lin Chen touched it, the blueprint vanished. A system voice echoed inside his mind. "Congratulations. You have obtained Blueprint, Trident of Poseidon." Lin Chen immediately opened his system panel. A new material synthesis button had appeared on the main page. Ignoring it for now, he pulled up his equipment menu. Beyond diving suit entries stood a brand new option. Trident of Poseidon rank, intermediate type, melee weapon, throwable. Properties: greatly boosts wielder's attack power. Instantly kills all sea beasts of third order or lower. Automatically returns after being thrown. Special effect: Ocean Flow Mastery. While wielding this trident, underwater movement speed plus 100%. Required crafting materials: intermediate alloy times 50 dropped while mining third order ore. Intermediate crystal core times 50 dropped by slain third order sea beasts. Plus 100% movement speed. Amazing. Lin Chen was overjoyed. Then he read over the material requirements again, and half his excitement faded. Intermediate alloy and intermediate crystal cores. That's ridiculous. If I could already defeat third-order sea beasts, why would I even need this weapon? He remembered the newly added material synthesis button. Returning to the main menu, he opened it. Material synthesis rules: material tiers: common, primary, intermediate, advanced, rare, epic, legendary, mythic. Synthesis ratio: 5 units of a lower tier material combined into 1 unit of the next higher tier. Synthesis cannot be reversed. Materials cannot be split back down. Lin Chen stared at the rules, stunned. To synthesize 50 intermediate crystal cores, he would need 1,250 common crystal cores. 1,250. How many jellyfish do I need to slaughter? Previously 30 jellyfish had yielded 50 common crystal cores. Even with his boosted drop rate, that meant roughly 750 jellyfish. Ordinary survivors would face far worse odds. This is hopeless. Lin Chen slumped onto the cave floor, demoralized. Terrible dryness in his throat forced him to go back outside and hunt for giant sea coconuts. Back on the coral reef, he soon located the giant sea coconuts. After gathering enough fresh water, he returned to the cavern and slept. Hunger woke him. Checking his inventory, all crab meat was gone. Fortunately, jellyfish essence counted as food. He consumed 1 unit of jellyfish essence. It filled his stomach satisfactorily, easing all hunger pangs. After taking care of personal needs, he left the cave. I need to farm enough materials to build the trident. Once I have this weapon, surviving will get much easier. His large-scale hunting began. Lin Chen searched relentlessly for electric jellyfish and killed them efficiently. A full day slipped by. The hunt went well. 32 jellyfish slain, yielding 200 common crystal cores. Drop rates were decent. He returned to the cavern and slept soundly. Next day, he kept hunting jellyfish. Every kill brought him one small step closer to finishing the trident. Another day passed. 31 jellyfish killed for 180 common crystal cores. Drop rates were poorer this time, yet his luck value hit 100 points. Exhaustion melted away instantly, seeing his luck value maxed out. Today he intended to test what a full luck critical bonus could do. He roamed dark undersea waters searching for prey when a light caught his eye. Navigation lights belonging to a submarine. Lin Chen frowned and ducked behind a rock. Peering cautiously out, he saw the submarine wedged sideways inside a narrow fissure. Its running lights stayed lit, and thrusters bubbled away as it struggled to break free. Rock walls clamped tight around its midsection. No matter how hard its thrusters burned, the craft only shuddered, unable to shift even a single centimeter. Lin Chen recognized the vessel immediately. Her again. Stuck once more. She really cannot catch a break, he muttered quietly. Through the porthole, the young woman frantically manipulated her controls. 2 mechanical arms extended outward, bracing against rock walls on opposite sides, trying to push the submarine free. They lacked enough force to shift the trapped weight. High-pitched metallic screeching came from over stressed joints. One mechanical arm slipped against stone. Sparks flew. The arm recoiled violently. Losing support on that side, the submarine squeezed even tighter, letting out a dull groan of stressed metal. Panic showed clearly on the woman inside. She rushed to adjust controls, yet the damaged arm would not retract. Lin Shen watched everything unfold behind his rock cover for several silent seconds. I must owe her something from a past life, he sighed. Kicking hard, he swam deep into the fissure. Light faded deeper inside. Lin Shen activated his chest flashlight. Bright white beams cut through murky seawater, illuminating the submarine hull. Countless fine scratches and dents covered its surface, proof of many hardships endured. Rock walls squeezed firmly around the widest section of the cockpit. Space existed fore and aft, yet escape was impossible. Lin Shen swam alongside the hull and looked inside through the porthole. Shen Lingxi bit her lip. Sweat stuck strands of hair to her forehead while her hands flew rapidly across the control panel. One malfunctioning robotic arm hung limply from the submarine's side, while the other kept futilely shoving against the rock wall. Seeming to catch the shift in light to her right, she whipped her head around. Their gazes collided through the porthole. Shen Lingxi froze, and her eyes reddened visibly in an instant. Her eyelids fluttered rapidly, and Lin Shen read her lips. Can you save me? Lin Shen gave no immediate response. He circled the submarine, carefully examining where it was wedged. The crack formed an irregular funnel shape, wide at the top and narrow at the bottom. The submarine had gotten trapped at its tightest point as it sank. Open water stretched out ahead and behind, yet the rock wall caved inward right here, creating a natural bottleneck. Talk about rotten luck, Lin Shen muttered to himself. He swam over to the jammed section and touched the rock face. The stone was hard, coated with slippery algae. No wonder the robotic arms kept slipping. There was nothing to get a firm grip on. Lin Shen thought for a moment, glancing upward toward the top of the fissure, then down toward its bottom. An idea came to him. He swam back to the porthole and gestured to Shen Lingxi. He pointed above the submarine, then below it, and mimed a downward, pressing motion. He wanted her to pilot the submarine further down, using the wider space beneath the bottleneck to break free. Shen Lingxi stared at his hand signals for several seconds, her brows drawn tight. She had not fully understood. Lin Shen took a deep breath, swam beneath the submarine, planted both hands against its underside, and nodded at her, signaling her to drive downward. This time Shen Lingxi got the message. She bit her lip and turned to the control panel. The thrusters rumbled to life with a low hum, and the submarine began to sink slowly. Lin Shen planted his feet on a protruding rock at the bottom of the fissure, braced his shoulders under the submarine's hull, and pushed upward with all his strength. His power was trivial against the full weight of the vessel, yet even a small reduction in downward drag might make all the difference. Driven by its thrusters, the submarine inched downward. Harsh metallic screeching echoed as it scraped against rock. The whole craft shuddered, fine rock debris flaking off the fissure walls. Shen Lingxi kept her eyes fixed on the depth gauge, her fingers hovering over the thruster controls. Sweat trickled down her cheeks from her forehead. Then came a dull thud. The submarine slid free from the narrow choke point. Once past the bottleneck, its sinking speed increased sharply. Lin Shen felt the weight vanish from his hands. The submarine was loose. He pulled away and darted aside. The vessel stabilized in the open water below. Turbid sediment swirled in the thruster wake. Lin Shen hovered in the water, watching the freed submarine, and let out a long breath of relief. Inside the porthole, Shen Lingxi slumped over the console, her shoulders trembling with exhaustion. A few seconds later, she lifted her head and looked toward Lin Shen through the glass, her eyes red-rimmed. Her lips moved. Right then, a system notification popped up on Lin Shen's interface. Friend request. Shen Lingxi wants to add you as a friend. Lin Shen stared at the request for 2 or 3 seconds before accepting. A private message window immediately opened. Thank you. You saved me again. Don't mention it. I just happened to pass by. By the way, how did you find my account? Do you know me? I guessed. The system announcement said you were the only player who spawned with just an oxygen mask. I figured you must be the one swimming around without a submarine. Oh, is that all you were going to say? Aren't you curious about my name? I'm Shen Lingxi. I studied at a medical university. Lin Shen hesitated, unsure how to reply. He had never been good at making small talk, least of all amid this apocalyptic deep-sea world. He was about to make an excuse and leave when another message popped up. Can your oxygen mask also be upgraded? Lin Shen's fingers froze mid-air. I don't mean anything bad. I'm just curious how you survive without a submarine. Lin Chen said nothing. Inside the submarine, Shun Lingxi seemed to realize she had asked too many questions and quickly sent another line. Sorry for prying. Please don't go. Lin Shun prepared to type a reply, but paused upon reading, please don't go. Night is falling. Lots of nocturnal sea beasts roam this area. It gets far more dangerous after dark. If you don't mind, could you stay nearby tonight? I can keep you safe. She then operated her mechanical arm to strike a bold, confident pose. Lin Shen almost smiled reading, I can keep you safe. He had rescued her twice already. Still, he decided to stay. Loneliness had gnawed at him these past few days, and he believed Shun Lingxi meant no harm. When Shun Lingxi saw his reply, okay, obvious relief washed over her face. Lin Shen swam over and sat down on a rock ledge beside the submarine, leaning against the cold rock wall. Shun Lingxi adjusted the submarine's orientation so its running lights shone toward where he sat. She shut down the thrusters and left only the life support system running on minimum power. The submarine fell quiet. Only an occasional stream of bubbles escaped its exhaust ports, glinting tiny sparks under the lamps. Leaning against the rock, Lin Shun could see Shun Lingxi through the porthole. She was looking back at him. Their eyes met across glass and seawater, neither looking away. After a long while, another system ping sounded. Lin Shen, aren't you scared out here all alone? Lin Shen read the message and thought carefully. I would be lying if I said I wasn't, but I have gotten used to it. I'm scared too. Terribly scared. Every single night. Sometimes I wonder what it would be like to never wake up, so I wouldn't have to face all of this anymore. Lin Shen's gaze lingered on those last words. He was terrible at comforting others. He was merely a 19-year-old freshman suddenly thrown into this deep sea apocalypse, fighting to stay alive each day. Still, he understood that feeling. To wake surrounded by endless dark water, an isolation heavy enough to crush anyone. Don't think like that. Just hold on for one more day. That is really poor consolation. The corners of Lin Shen's mouth tugged faintly in a half smile. I tried my best. There was a short pause before Shun Lingxi messaged again. Lin Shen, have you considered teaming up? I mean, the two of us together. I'm not much of a fighter, but I have a healing talent, fountain of life. I can mend wounds and purify contaminated food and water. I worked emergency room intern shifts in medical school and know first aid and wound care. I won't hold you back. Lin Shun read her long message and stayed silent for a long time. I don't have much combat ability right now either. I might slow you down. Let's leave the idea for later. He meant every word. He genuinely could not see what useful role he could fill. Shun Lingxi did not press the subject. She simply replied, all right. Hey, can you heal some of my wounds for me right now? As soon as Shun Lingxi saw the message, she held both palms toward him, closed her eyes, and her lips moved softly as if reciting an incantation. Watching her, Lin Shen thought to himself that she looked just like a stereotypical mage. A warm, mysterious aura wrapped all over Lin Shen's body. The sensation was soothing and pleasant. He watched gashes left by sawtooth crabs heal visibly. Old hidden injuries across his body gradually mended. Relaxed by the warmth, Lin Shen drifted off to sleep. Shun Lingxi slowly opened her eyes, gazing at the sleeping Lin Shen. A soft smile crossed her face, and she whispered silently, good night, Lin Shen. Some time later, Lin Shen stirred awake. He twisted his stiff neck and instinctively looked toward the submarine. He froze. The cavern stood empty. He was completely alone. The submarine that had been anchored nearby was gone without warning. Only dim seawater and slowly drifting sediment filled the fissure, as if none of last night had ever happened. Lin Shen frowned. He opened his system panel and pulled up his friend list. Where did you go? The message was sent and received no reply. 1 minute passed. 2 minutes. 5 minutes. Her status still showed online, yet she said nothing. Lin Shen stared at the silent chat box. His feelings were complicated, surprise, but no overwhelming sorrow. They had only met by chance. She had her own way to survive and her own priorities. Leaving without saying goodbye was rude, yet in this cruel world, nobody owed anyone an explanation. He closed the interface, stretched his limbs, and stood up from the ledge. Never mind. Time to focus on what matters. I still haven't tested my lucky critical hit. Lin Shen kicked off and swam upward out of the fissure. Once clear of the opening, the view broadened. Stretching out before him was undulating reef terrain, and farther away lay the edge of a vast dim kelp forest. The silent underwater world unfolded before his eyes. He took a deep breath and opened his system panel, his eyes falling on the ready to use lucky critical hit button. All right, show me what incredible rewards you can give me. He hovered his virtual finger over the button for 2 seconds, holding back. He browsed the creature compendium, hoping to find some weak second-order beast on which to use his skill. After scanning entries for quite a while, he shut the compendium and swam straight toward the kelp forest. Yep, jellyfish it is. The translucent electric jellyfish drifted in their usual spot. Their bells pulsed open and shut, tentacles rippling like silk ribbons in the current. Completely unaware of what awaited them, Lin Chen stopped before the nearest jellyfish, took a deep breath, opened his system panel, and tapped Lucky Critical Hit without hesitation. Grabbing a sharp fragment of rock, he smashed it hard down onto the jellyfish bell. Lin Chen had long grown adept at killing jellyfish. A few well-aimed rock strikes quickly finished the electric jellyfish off. Pleasant system chimes echoed. Lucky Critical Hit activated. This kill grants times 1,000 drop multiplier. Obtained, jellyfish essence times 1,000, ordinary electric cores times 1,000, ordinary crystal shards times 1,000. Lin Chen stared in shock. He quickly checked his system inventory. Ordinary fiber times 2,000, jellyfish essence times 1551, ordinary electric cores times 1,300, ordinary crystal shards times 1,280. On a good full day hunting jellyfish before, he could barely gather 200 resources. This single kill gave him 1,000 of each. It felt amazing. This is beyond what I imagined. Ha ha. A wide grin spread across his face. He nearly laughed out loud underwater. He opened the synthesis menu and rapidly crafted 50 intermediate crystal cores, leaving 30 ordinary crystal shards remaining. Now I just need intermediate alloy. Full of anticipation, he pulled up the compendium to check where intermediate alloy could be mined. Disappointment washed over him. Intermediate alloy could only be harvested between 200 and 500 meters deep. His maximum safe dive depth, same as a Tier 1 submarine, was 150 meters. That left ordinary alloy. It could be mined from canyon rock walls at a depth of 100 to 200 meters. Lin Chen closed his panel and headed toward the undersea canyon in high spirits. After roughly 20 minutes of swimming, he reached the canyon entrance. It resembled a sheer underwater cliff, and that was where he would mine ordinary alloy from its rock faces. Lin Chen swam to the edge and glanced downward. Not far below, a badly damaged submarine rested precariously on a rock outcrop, balanced as though ready to tumble into the abyss at any second. Deep claw marks scored its hull, as if some giant beast had raked its claws across it. Its right side thruster had been torn completely off, exposing severed cables and pipe joints from which tiny bubbles occasionally escaped. Its porthole was crossed with spider web cracks. A bad premonition rose in Lin Chen's chest. He swam slowly toward the submarine, unease growing stronger with every meter he closed. When he peered through the nearly shattered porthole and saw the figure inside, his heart sank. Shin Lingxi lay slumped in her pilot's seat. Her face was deathly pale, eyes closed, lips tinged purple. Her body lolled to one side. One hand hung limply over the armrest, the other rested atop the control panel. Lin Chen knocked hard against the porthole. Thud, thud, thud. Muffled knocks traveled through the water and metal into the cabin. No response. He struck harder, pressing his whole palm against the glass. Fresh crack spider webbed outward across the frame. Thud, thud, thud. More than 10 seconds passed. Shin Lingxi's eyelashes fluttered faintly. Lin Chen saw the movement, yet dared not knock again, terrified of shattering the glass entirely. Shin Lingxi slowly slit open her eyes. Her vision was blurry. It took several moments for her focus to settle on his face. She stared for 2 or 3 seconds, her lips moving as if whispering his name. Lin Chen quickly pulled open his friend list and typed rapidly. Can your submarine still move? He kept his eyes fixed on her through the porthole. Shin Lingxi glanced down at her system interface, then looked back toward him. Her eyes welled with tears. Her lips trembled several times before she sent a reply. The thrusters are broken. I think this might be the end for me. Thank you for saving me twice. I hope we can be friends in another life. Reading her words, Lin Chen felt dazed. A strange ache welled inside him. It felt as though someone precious was about to die, even though they had only met a handful of times. He quickly composed himself and fired off another message. Tell me what materials you need to upgrade to Tier 2 submarine. Upgrading should repair all this damage. It is useless. Those materials are extremely hard to gather. Even if I told you, I will most likely be dead long before you collect everything. Leave me be. Thank you, truly. Quit talking like that. List exactly what you are missing. Tier 2 submarine upgrade requires ordinary alloy times 100, ordinary crystal shards times 100, blue, scale snake skin times 50, pufferfish spine sac times 50. I have only gathered 30 units of ordinary alloy these past days. I cannot get the rest. Just leave me. It is hopeless. I will wish you well from beyond. Tears streamed down Shun Lingxi's face. After sending the text, she looked toward Lin Shun and forced a faint smile. Stop saying that. Tend to your head wound first and wait right here. I will get you the materials for the upgrade. Having sent the message, Lin Shun turned and swam toward the coral reef zone. Lin Shun wasted no time. First, he reached exposed bedrock on the edge of the reef, rock surfaces glinting with dull metallic sheen. He picked up a sharp rock fragment and chipped hard at mineral fissures. Strike after strike, the ore proved far harder than expected. Mining ordinary alloy already exhausted him, let alone intermediate alloy which he had briefly considered going for. Nearly 6 hours passed. After breaking apart 10 large ore deposits, he obtained 70 units of ordinary alloy. Combined with Shun Lingxi's existing 30 units, they hit exactly 100 units. He immediately traded the ordinary alloy to her via private message trade. His system inventory only had 6 slots after all. Lin Shun, how did you manage this? 70 units of ordinary alloy in so little time. That does not matter. Just trust one will get you upgraded. Stay put. Okay. Lin Shun closed his interface and hurried toward the kelp forest. Next came blue, scale snake skin, and pufferfish spine sacs. Both could be found within the kelp forest. Blue, scale sea, snakes lived along the boundary between kelp woods and reefs. They measured 4 to 6 meters long, swam extremely fast, and carried neurotoxin in their fangs. Lin Shun had always avoided them before, but now he had no choice but to hunt them. Fortunately, his Tier 2 diving suit protected him. First, Order C. Beasts could not hurt him. He searched along the kelp forest fringe for about 10 minutes and spotted one. The blue scale sea snake coiled atop a reef, triangular head raised, flicking its forked tongue through the water. Lin Shun wasted no time. He grabbed a rock and charged forward. The sea snake reacted faster than the sawtooth crabs. Before Lin Shun could swing, it struck and bit down on his calf. His Tier 2 diving suit held firm. He barely even felt the bite. Though Lin Shun had always feared snakes and had avoided them even after obtaining his improved diving suit, desperation pushed him forward now. He aimed a heavy rock straight down onto the snake, biting his leg, and killed it with one blow. Blue scale sea snake slain. Obtained. Snake meat times 10, blue, scale snake skin times 10, venom fangs times 10, ordinary crystal shards times 10 inch after slaying 10 blue, scale sea snakes. He had collected enough snake skin. He traded all the snake skins, venom fangs, and snake meat over to Shun Lingxi. Not knowing what use the fangs might serve, he sent them to free up inventory slots. Only the pufferfish spine sacs remained. Hunting the pufferfish turned out even easier. When threatened, spiny pufferfish inflated into spiky spheres. Lin Shun faced no risk of injury and smashed them relentlessly with rocks. Spiny pufferfish slain. Obtained. Pufferfish meat times 10, spines times 10, pufferfish spine sac times 10, ordinary crystal shards times 10 inch. Soon, all required materials were gathered. Again, he traded all puffer fish loot across to Shun Lingxi. Materials are complete. Do not start the upgrade yet. Wait until I get back. After sending his final trade and message, Lin Shun raced back towards Shun Lingxi's location. He worried complications might arise mid-upgrade. The girls certainly had terrible luck. When he arrived, he leaned against the rock beside the submarine, gasping for breath. Almost 7 hours of non-stop exertion had drained him completely, most of all the grueling or mining work. All right, start upgrading. I am right here watching over you. You are incredible. I still cannot believe you pulled this off. Thank you for saving me once more. I really don't know how I can repay you. Shun Lingxi gave a bright, cheerful smile. Lin Shun rolled his eyes. Shun Lingxi was fully prepared and pressed the upgrade button. Soft golden light flowed across the submarine hull. The horrifying claw marks and cracks faded away before their eyes. The hull seemed to turn liquid, shifting and expanding, morphing from its spherical shape into a long oval form. Its total volume grew more than 5-fold. As the golden glow faded, the upgrade finished. A system-wide announcement popped up. Lin Shun opened it out of curiosity. Congratulations to player Shun Lingxi for being the first to upgrade to a Tier 2 submarine. Ugh, did that really need to be announced? Lin Shun frowned and opened the World Chat channel. World Chat had exploded. What? Someone hit Tier 2 already? How is this possible so soon? Are they cheating? That can't be right. Upgrading to Tier 2 needs ordinary alloy times 100, ordinary crystal shards times 100, blue, scale snake skin times 50, pufferfish spine, sac times 50. Just farming 100 ordinary alloy would normally take a full week. A whole week mining ordinary alloy? Are you serious? I thought that resource was easy to collect and planned to get it last. I'm not lying to you. I've been mining ever since the game started, and I've only just collected 70 units of regular alloy. That's roughly 15 units a day. Big player, carry me. Help me, Sister Shun Lingxi. Does anyone know who this Shin Lingxi is? Which server is she on? Lin Shin closed the world chat channel. He knew it was only a matter of time before people started targeting Shin Lingxi. But he had no time to deal with that right now. He looked toward the observation window. Shin Lingxi was slouched in the pilot's seat, pinching her own cheek over and over, still struggling to believe everything that had happened. All at once, she rested her head on the control console and began to shake with quiet sobs. All the fear, helplessness, and despair she had endured over these days poured out in her tears. After a long while, she finally calmed down. She lifted her head, wiped her face roughly with her sleeve, took several deep breaths in quick succession, and tapped away on the control panel. A low rumble of machinery echoed from the bottom of the submarine, and the outer hatch slowly swung open. Shin Lingxi waved frantically at Lin Shun and sent him a system message. Come on in. A Tier 2 submarine has more than enough space for 2 people. Lin Shun stared at the open hatch and hesitated for 2 or 3 seconds before swimming into the wet, dry airlock. He chose to trust her. Even if she betrayed him later, he would accept it. Right now, he badly needed this submarine. Behind him, the outer hatch slid shut with a heavy thud. Water inside the airlock began draining. The water level dropped from waist high down to his ankles until the compartment was completely dry. Lin Shun felt disoriented. He had grown so accustomed to being surrounded by seawater that its absence felt strange. A few seconds after all the water had drained out of the airlock, the inner hatch clicked and slowly opened. Lin Shun stepped through and entered the submarine. Shin Lingxi stood beside the pilot's seat. She wore a light blue hoodie and jeans, her hair loosely draped over her shoulders. She looked at him, clearly nervous. Welcome aboard. Standing in the doorway, Lin Shun could not help but laugh. Didn't you say you were a medical university student? You sound just like a restaurant server. Shin Lingxi's cheeks flushed bright red. I'm just nervous. How about we take a look at what the Tier 2 submarine has to offer? Lin Shun nodded. He was curious too. The interior of the Tier 2 submarine spanned roughly 30 square meters. Compared with the cramped Tier 1 submarine, the difference was night and day. Shin Lingxi turned in a circle inside the cabin and ran a hand along the wall. So much space. Back in the Tier 1 submarine, I could barely straighten my back. I could only huddle in the pilot's seat. A question Lin Shun had wondered about for a long time slipped out. By the way, how did you manage basic necessities back then? Shin Lingxi was utterly speechless at his blunt question, yet she answered with red cheeks. There is a toilet compartment that opens right beneath the pilot's seat. Now I get it. That's actually a pretty clever design. Lin Shun saw nothing odd about his question. Mind if I use the restroom? Without waiting for a reply, he headed toward the bathroom. The Tier 2 submarine made excellent use of its space. Though only around 4 square meters, the bathroom had a partitioned wet, dry area, a toilet, and a sink. It was compact, but fully functional. Lin Shun took off his diving suit and all his soaked clothes. He wrung them out and hung them up to dry. After using the toilet, he took a hot shower. Warm water washed over his body, and he almost sighed with relief. Before the apocalypse, he had never thought much of taking a shower. Now he understood what a luxury standing under clean hot water really was. He pulled on his dry clothes, stored his diving suit in his system backpack, and opened the bathroom door. That felt amazing. You haven't bathed in days either. Do you want to go take a shower? The water is nice and warm. Shin Lingxi's face burned. She glanced away shyly and murmured softly, All right, I'll go wash up. She lowered her head, slipped past Lin Shun, and stepped into the bathroom. The door clicked shut behind her. Listening to the sound of running water, Lin Shun continued exploring the submarine. Next to the bathroom was the bedroom, more than 10 square meters in size. Against one wall stood a white bunk bed. The lower bunk was made up with clean light blue bed sheets, while the upper bunk remained unused. Why is only one bed made up? Lin Shun muttered to himself, then walked out of the bedroom and into the cockpit. The cockpit was just over 5 square meters, with 2 side-by-side pilot seats. A semi-circular control panel stretched out in front of them, densely packed with buttons, joysticks, and display screens. Folding small tables were mounted on both sides. Lin Shun sat down in one pilot seat and studied the complicated interface. Suddenly, a system notification chimed. Tier 2 submarine bound successfully. Loading relevant knowledge. Massive amounts of submarine-related information flooded into Lin Chen's mind. Loading complete. System backpack expanded to 9 slots. System warehouse unlocked. Daily, use supplies generated. Finally, no more worries about insufficient backpack space. Lin Chen opened his status panel. He suddenly realized there had only been one towel inside the bathroom a moment ago. Thankfully, basic toiletries had just been generated by the system, or it would have been an awkward situation. Shaking the thought away, Lin Chen began studying the control interface. Sometime later, the bathroom door opened. Shen Lingxi stepped out with damp hair, her cheeks flushed from the hot water. Lin Chen turned around instinctively. Their eyes met, and for a moment neither of them moved. Shen Lingxi's face grew even hotter. Lin Chen was the first to break the awkward silence. Why don't you get some sleep? You must be exhausted after all these tough days. Okay. Shen Lingxi felt immensely relieved and hurried into the bedroom. Watching her close the bedroom door, Lin Chen suddenly wondered why she had vanished the day before, and how the submarine had sustained such heavy damage. Oh well, we will most likely have to rely on each other from now on. There will be plenty of time to ask later. He leaned back in his seat and focused on familiarizing himself with the submarine controls. Drawing on the newly acquired knowledge in his mind, Lin Chen piloted the submarine out of the underwater canyon and anchored it inside a well-hidden cave. He opened the submarine status screen. Tier 2 submarine, water pressure resistance, 500 meters, defense, immune to Tier 1 sea beast attacks, maximum speed, 18 kilometers per hour, armament, no weapons equipped, oxygen conversion module, operating normally, fresh, water conversion module, operating normally, energy module, 10% remaining. Please supply primary energy cores. Primary energy cores? Tier 1 submarines run on regular energy cores. All those jellyfish I hunted have finally paid off. Lin Chen combined all regular energy cores inside his backpack into primary energy cores, giving him a total of 260 units. Fully recharging the Tier 2 submarine only required 10 units. Each unit restored 10% power. He topped the energy bar completely. With the Tier 2 submarine and sufficient power, oxygen and fresh water were no longer concerns. Still, the complete lack of weapons was a big problem. Against sea beasts, they had no means to fight back. I need weapon blueprints. Lin Chen opened the upgrade panel. Materials required for Tier 3 submarine. Primary alloy times 200. Primary crystal core times 200. Glow squid ink sac times 100 dropped by glow squids. Giant crab king carapace times 100 dropped by giant crab king. Notice, upgrading from Tier 2 to Tier 3 has an 80% success rate. All consumed materials will be lost upon failure. Are you kidding me? The upgrade system can fail. He read the prompt shown below. Tip: absorbing other submarines increases upgrade success rate. Rules are as follows. Each absorbed submarine of the same tier adds plus 5% success rate. Absorbing a submarine 1 tier lower adds plus 2%. 2 tiers lower adds plus 1%. Submarines 3 or more tiers lower give no bonus. Notice, a maximum of 10 submarines may be consumed per upgrade attempt. Cold sweat ran down Lin Chen's back. This system is pushing players to fight each other. Tier 1 to Tier 2 was just the easy tutorial phase. Tier 2 and beyond is every person for themselves. Or maybe the system wants to encourage players to team up. Lin Chen tried to think positively. He tapped his fingers lightly against the armrest. I have to craft the Sea God Trident as soon as possible. To avoid becoming someone else's prey, I need to stay ahead. He closed the upgrade menu and browsed through other submarine functions. Next to his backpack was a brand new tab labeled Submarine Warehouse. He opened it, revealing a 20-slot storage interface. Inside were only a few compressed food bars and bottles of mineral water. That is all the supplies she has. Truly rough circumstances. Lin Chen dragged his primary crystal cores and primary energy cores from his backpack into the warehouse. Storage worked perfectly. No more stress over limited inventory space. He opened settings for the fresh water conversion module. The default daily output was 50 liters, more than enough for 2 people. Tomorrow I will list excess fresh water on the trade market and see what alloy materials I can get in return. He skimmed the world chat. It was late, and only a few players were online, complaining about poor loot and slow progression. Lin Chen said nothing and closed the channel. The clock read 2 in the morning. Steady breathing drifted out of the bedroom. Shen Lingxi was sound asleep. Lin Chen considered going inside to sleep, yet felt awkward sharing a room with a girl he had only just met. He flattened the pilot seat into a semi-reclined position, activated sonar alert mode, and drifted off to sleep. He slept dreamlessly. After some time, the submarine lighting slowly shifted from night time to daytime mode, gradually brightening to mimic morning sunlight. Lin Chun woke slowly, sat up, and rubbed his stiff neck. Sleeping in the pilot's seat had left him sore, yet it was far better than resting in open seawater. The bedroom door stayed closed with no sound coming from within. He quietly climbed out of the seat and walked toward the bathroom. The system had already provided toiletries. He turned on the tap, splashed cold water on his face, squeezed toothpaste onto his toothbrush, and was about to brush his teeth when the bathroom door swung open. Shin Lingxi stood in the doorway. Her loose light blue hoodie hung on her frame. Her hair messy and unkempt, her eyes heavy with grogginess. She had just gotten out of bed and needed to use the restroom. Their eyes met. Silence hung in the air for 2 or 3 seconds. "Good morning," Lin Chun mumbled with his toothbrush in his mouth. Shin Lingxi stepped backward, her face flushing. "Gee, good morning." Lin Chun turned toward the mirror and kept brushing his teeth, making space for her. "Want to brush your teeth together? I'm almost done." No, you go first. I'll wait." Shin Lingxi waved her hands quickly, stepped out into the corridor, and left the door half ajar. Lin Chun finished brushing, wiped his face with a towel, and opened the door. "All yours." Shin Lingxi lowered her head, walked past him, and entered the bathroom. A little while later she came out, her hair tied loosely into a ponytail with a hair tie. Lin Chun stood by the console browsing the player trade market. He turned around when he heard footsteps. "Are you hungry?" He pulled a transparent tube-shaped container out of his backpack. It held pale, blue, faintly glowing liquid. "This is jellyfish essence. It keeps hunger away pretty well." Shin Lingxi took it curiously and turned it over in her hands. "Does it taste good?" "Hardly any flavor at all," Lin Chun shrugged. "Almost like plain cold water, but it fills you right up." Shin Lingxi unscrewed the cap and took a tiny tentative sip, wrinkling her nose. "Truly no taste. Help yourself. I have plenty." She drank the whole tube in one go. "I really want hot pot. I also wish I had clean new clothes." She tugged at the collar of her hoodie with a look of distaste. "I haven't changed in days out on the ocean. My clothes smell terrible. I get it. I'm also tired of the same plain food. Maybe Tier 3 submarines come with a kitchen. As for clothes, mine don't smell great either. We might find spare clothing inside supply crates. I once found a weapon blueprint inside one." "Really? Can I see it?" "Nothing exciting to look at. You will see what it looks like once I build it." "Oomph, you're so stingy." Shin Lingxi pouted and looked away. "All right, let's get down to business. Today we will explore below 150 meters. Hardly anyone else owns a Tier 2 submarine, so most supply crates down there should still be untouched. Right? Let's go." Shin Lingxi laughed excitedly. Lin Chun's expression turned helpless. That laugh was a little eerie. "I'm just happy. Come on, let's depart." The submarine descended smoothly through the blue ocean water. Lin Chun sat in the pilot's seat, hands resting lightly on the controls, glancing back and forth between the sonar display and the observation window. He was practicing piloting, while Shin Lingxi sat in the co-pilot seat to assist. As they dove deeper into dark waters, both of them grew tense. Deep sea anxiety kicked in. "Lin Chun, how deep are we now? This darkness makes me nervous." Shin Lingxi huddled in her seat, trembling, too distracted to check the instruments. Lin Chun felt similar unease. The surrounding water pressure felt heavy. 148 meters. Let's stick around this depth. Tier 1 submarines can go to 150 meters, but very few players would dare venture that far down. "You're right. There is no need to rush." They began exploring the boundary between the sunlit zone and the twilight zone. Lin Chun nodded. "The terrain here is more complicated than I expected. Sonar shows many deep canyons. There should be plenty of shipwrecks and supply crates. Let's follow the sonar signals." Shin Lingxi had relaxed and grown more accustomed to the deep sea environment. A sharp, clear signal suddenly popped up on the sonar screen. "Something is out there," Lin Chun said. Shin Lingxi leaned forward to look. "What is it?" "The signal is strong. It must be a large metallic object." Lin Chun adjusted their heading toward the reading. "Most likely a shipwreck." The submarine traveled for several minutes across flat seabed. The terrain narrowed, and tall rocky walls rose on either side as they entered the mouth of an underwater canyon. Rock walls were covered in thick seaweed that glowed dark green beneath the submarine lamps. Bright little coral patches dotted the stone, and palm-sized starfish clung to the rock faces. "Look, a starfish. Almost like SpongeBob," Shin Lingxi joked. Lin Chun shook his head, amused that she could joke after being terrified moments before. But he played along. "Yep, Squidward is waiting just ahead, rounding a jagged rock outcrop. their target finally came into view. It was the wreck of a medium-sized cargo vessel, roughly 30 meters long, lying on its side on sandy canyon ground. Its deck slanted steeply. Surprisingly, the hull showed very little rust. This wreck looks almost new. Xinlingxi pressed against the observation window. It sank shortly after the toxic fog disaster hit, only a few days ago. Lin Chun hovered the submarine 20 meters above the wreck and switched on external spotlights. Want to check it out? Sure. Xinlingxi grew eager. Lin Chun maneuvered the submarine closer, keeping it level with the tilted deck. Through the window, they could see most deck hatches stood open, and some cabins showed clear signs of prior looting. Lin Chun frowned. What is wrong? Xinlingxi noticed his change in expression. Someone has been here before. Lin Chun pointed outside. Look at those hatches. The locks have been pried open, not broken naturally. Xinlingxi followed his gaze, and her mood sank. Who would dare come down this deep? Lin Chun gave a quiet sigh. Experienced divers and former submarine crew can handle depths like this without fear. He brought the submarine level above the deck and used the mechanical arm to inspect several cabins. Every supply crate had already been emptied. Everything has been looted. Lin Chun closed the mechanical arm interface and leaned back, disappointed. Xinlingxi stayed quiet for a moment and sighed softly. So we came all this way for nothing? Lin Chun did not reply. His eyes scanned the sonar screen, ready to turn away, when a faint signal at the screen's edge caught his attention. 50 meters behind the shipwreck, the faint blip looked almost like background rock noise. Easy to miss without careful observation. Wait. Lin Chun zoomed in on the signal. The shape was sharp and regular, not the uneven reflection of natural rock, a roughly square outline. That must be a crate, tucked inside a crevice behind the wreck. Xinlingxi studied the display. A crack in the rock? Can we pilot the submarine inside? Lin Chun steered around the wreck toward the source. Up close they saw a very narrow fissure less than 1 meter wide, dropping deep vertically. Sharp jagged rock lined both walls. The submarine was far too big to fit through. It's way too narrow. Xinlingxi shook her head. If it were easy to reach, someone would already have taken whatever is inside. Lin Chun stared at the narrow opening. Then he stood up and walked toward the wet, dry airlock. You're going out. Xinlingxi blinked in surprise. Lin Chun had already taken out his diving suit from his system backpack. I'll put on the diving suit and go down to take a look. If there really is a supply crate down there, we can't just leave it be. But, Xinlingxi parted her lips, wanting to say something, yet swallowed her words. Lin Chun noticed her worry and spoke casually. Don't worry. My diving suit has a pressure resistance rating for 150 meters. I'll be fine. Xinlingxi bit her lip and finally nodded. Be careful. Come back quickly once you get the supplies. Come back quickly even if you find nothing. Lin Chun smiled and stepped into the wet, dry airlock. Shortly after Lin Chun exited the airlock, Xinlingxi's voice came over the comms. Hey, can you hear me? He paused for a moment and realized this must be a new feature unlocked after forming a team. Loud and clear, Lin Chun replied. I only just found out. Team voice chat activates once you form a party with the system. No more typing, so much more convenient. Xinlingxi's voice carried a hint of wonder as it filtered through the communicator. Lin Chun soon arrived at the rock fissure. The bright headlamp mounted on his chest cast a beam of light, illuminating the narrow entrance. Turning sideways, Lin Chun squeezed inside little by little. Visibility inside the fissure was poor. The beam of his flashlight bounced repeatedly off the rock walls, casting dappled light and shadow. He kept his breathing steady, moving forward cautiously, while keeping a close eye on his surroundings. Where are you now? Xinlingxi's voice came through the communicator. Still moving inward. About 7 or 8 meters in, Lin Chun answered. Want me to check the sonar? Tell me your position. No need. I can see a glint down below. I think I'm reaching the bottom. Lin Chun was right. After squeezing forward another 4 or 5 meters, the fissure opened up into a small hollow roughly 3 to 4 square meters in size. The cave walls were covered in dark, green moss, glowing with an eerie fluorescence under the light. Right in the center of the hollow lay a silver, gray metal crate. I found it, Lin Chun said, a note of joy in his tone. Great news. Xinlingxi sounded visibly excited. Hurry and open it to see what's inside. Lin Chun swam over to the supply crate, marked primary supply crate. He opened it. Several blueprints lay inside. He stuffed all of them into his system backpack, planning to examine them back on the submarine. Xinlingxi's voice suddenly blared over the communicator, sharp with urgency. Lin Chun, get back here fast. Something huge is heading straight for us. Lin Chun's heart sank sharply. He scrambled back toward the fissure entrance as he spoke. Can you tell what it is? I have no idea. only that it's massive and moving really fast. Around 30 kilometers per hour, Lin Chen quickened his pace, bracing his palms against both sides of the rock wall to push himself outward. Only 100 meters away. Hurry, Lin Chen. Shen Lingxi's voice trembled. Lin Chen pulled his chest past the narrowest section of the fissure and burst out of the crack. He kicked hard off the rock face, using the recoil to surge toward the submarine. I see it. Shen Lingxi shrieked. It's almost at the shipwreck. Move faster, Lin Chen. Lin Chen did not look back. His lungs burned. He thrashed his arms through the water at full strength. The secondary diving suit's movement boost was maxed out, seawater roaring past his ears. The submarine hatch stood open, and the lights of the wet, dry airlock glowed in the darkness. 50 meters left. Hurry! Shen Lingxi's voice was hoarse from shouting. Lin Chen dove straight into the airlock and slammed his palm onto the close button. The hatch slid shut behind him, and the drainage system rapidly pumped out the seawater. Go! Lin Chen roared. The secondary submarine's engine rumbled deeply, and the whole vessel jolted. Shen Lingxi had already pushed the throttle all the way forward. Lin Chen stumbled out of the airlock, soaking wet, and staggered into the cockpit. On the console display, a massive tentacle rose slowly from behind the sunken wreck. Its dull, gray skin was dotted with suction cups the size of basins, each rim lined with fine, sharp barbs. The tentacle twisted slowly within the searchlight beam, almost as if savoring the illumination. One after another, 8 tentacles lifted from behind the wreckage, like some horrifying statue brought to life. Damn it, giant octopus. I really shouldn't have joked about this. Lin Chen stared in shock. The enormous gray octopus rose fully behind the wreck. Its oval head was twice the size of their secondary submarine. Two-pitch, black eyes fixed unblinkingly on their vessel. Its skin swirled like ink spilled in water, shifting from charcoal gray to dusky blue, until it turned pure black, blending seamlessly into the deep sea behind it. Lin Chen pulled up the Marine Beast Codex for reference. This was the Shadow Octopus, a Tier 4 deep sea beast native to the Twilight Zone. It could precisely alter its skin color and texture to blend into its surroundings. A chill ran down Lin Chen's spine. Go, go, go. Get us out of here right now. I'm already pushing full speed. Shen Lingxi gripped the control stick tightly, as the submarine's power system screamed under strain. The octopus's 8 tentacles coiled inward then snapped outward. Its colossal body shot forward with speed wildly disproportionate to its bulk, instantly closing half the distance to the submarine. Lin Chen's pupils shrank. This creature swam far faster than their secondary submarine. We need to find a cave to hide in. Shen Lingxi bit her lip, her hands shaking on the controls. A heavy thud echoed from behind them. The submarine lurched violently. The display flickered wildly, vertical streaks of black and white noise tearing across the screen. Seawater footage dissolved into static, colors warping and distorting. On screen, a dull, gray tentacle coiled tight around the protective grille of the rear thruster. It has us! Shen Lingxi screamed and jammed the throttle forward. The engine groaned under unbearable stress. Though speed still climbed, the tentacle held fast to the grille, yawing the submarine off course and dragging it sideways toward the sunken wreck. Lin Chen glanced at the console. Their speed had been cut in half. Metal groaned at the stern. The thruster grille deformed under the tentacle's crushing force, and the submarine drifted helplessly sideways toward the wreck. Lin Chen's mind raced. The sonar. We can use the sonar. Lin Chen nearly shouted. Lingxi, crank the sonar power all the way up. Shen Lingxi understood at once. High. Intensity active. Sonar pulses were like ringing a giant bell right beside a marine creature's ears. She pulled up the sonar interface, lowered the frequency slider, and dragged power to its absolute maximum. Closing her eyes, she slammed her palm onto the fire button. The entire submarine shuddered. An invisible sonic pulse blasted outward from the bow transducer. Sound travels 5 times faster in seawater than in air, carrying nearly undiminished energy. All 8 of the Shadow Octopus's tentacles froze. Its pitch, black eyes flew wide open. Sound waves ripped through the water and hammered inside the beast's massive body. Its nervous system could not withstand such broad, spectrum high-intensity shock. Every tentacle spasmed and contracted. The tentacle wrapped around the thruster grille slipped free. A sharp metallic pop echoed from the stern as bent metal sprang partially back into shape. We have thrust again. Shen Lingxi cried out. Go, go, go. Lin Chen snatched the control stick and rammed the throttle to full power. The secondary submarine's engine howled, and the vessel shot forward like an arrow loosed from a bow. Lin Chen glanced at the monitor. The Shadow Octopus remained in place, its 8 tentacles writhing in agony, still recovering from the sonic blast. But only a few seconds passed before it moved again, and it moved even faster than before. It's enraged. Shen Lingxi stared at the screen, fists clenched tight. Gritting his teeth, Lin Chen steered straight toward a submarine canyon ahead. Rock walls on either side streaked past. The canyon narrowed rapidly from 50 meters across to 20, then 10, then 8. On the screen, the huge gray shape closed in, the distance shrinking constantly. It's catching up, Shen Lingxi shrieked. Lin Chen's eyes darted back and forth between the sonar readout and the terrain ahead. The canyon made a sharp bend, and beyond the corner lay an even narrower fissure. Hold on tight. Lin Chen yanked the stick hard to the left. The submarine tilted, drifting around the bend so close it scraped against the left-hand rock face. Metal screeched against stone, and sparks flashed outside the viewport. Shen Lingxi gripped her armrest so hard her knuckles whitened, her face as pale as paper. Past the bend, the terrain constricted sharply. Two massive rock walls towered like closing doors, leaving a gap barely 3 meters wide. Lin Chen's eyes widened. Will we fit? Shen Lingxi cried. No way to know. We have to take the gamble. 40 meters. 30 meters. 20 meters. 10. Lin Chen squeezed the controls so hard his knuckles turned white. The submarine plunged into the fissure. Rock scraped along both sides of the hull. Searchlight beams reflected off stone, bathing the cabin in blinding glare. A teeth-grating screech filled the air as metal dragged against rock. Shen Lingxi squeezed her eyes shut, too terrified to look. Lin Chen kept his gaze fixed forward. The fissure grew tighter and tighter. He feared they would jam solid only a few meters further in. Then the space opened up all at once. A vast underwater cavern stretched out before them. Lin Chen eased off the throttle, and the submarine slowed gradually. We made it. Are we alive? Shen Lingxi's voice shook. Lin Chen checked the rear-facing sonar display. The shadow octopus had stopped at the fissure entrance. Its huge bulk could not fit through the narrow gap. Tentacles probed repeatedly into the opening, but could not reach their hiding spot inside. All right, we made it, Lin Chen said slowly, leaning back heavily, overcome with exhaustion. Shen Lingxi pressed herself against the viewport, gazing out at the quiet cavern, and suddenly laughed. What are you laughing at? Lin Chen asked. You really are bad luck. You joked about a giant octopus, and one showed up. Let's see you making silly jokes from now on. Lin Chen could not help smiling too, but their smiles faded fast. The submarine's searchlight cast a dim yellow circle across the cavern walls. On the rear monitor, the octopus's tentacles still probed constantly through gaps in the rock. Warning, severe thruster damage. Warning, sonar system offline. Warning, multiple hull deformations detected. Warning, submarine durability below 70%. Alarm chimes blared one after another. Shen Lingxi paced frantically around the cockpit. No, how can the sonar be dead? Without sonar, we're blind down here on the seabed. Lin Chen remarked flatly. We're not just blind. Our thrusters are badly damaged. We are blind and crippled. How can you stay so calm? Aren't you scared at all? Shen Lingxi stopped pacing and stared at him in bewilderment. Lin Chen turned toward her and spread his hands. Being scared changes nothing. We have to shelter here for the time being and wait until the octopus leaves before we head out. Shen Lingxi sighed. Poor submarine. Barely finished repairs less than a day ago and already damaged again. My heart aches. Since the sonar is gone, I'll put on my diving suit and look around for supply crates. Shen Lingxi turned toward him, her lips parting. What if something terrible happens the second you step outside? Don't say that, don't jinx us. Keep watch for the octopus and warn me immediately if anything changes. Lin Chen hurried into the wet-dry airlock and pulled the hatch shut behind him. The cavern stretched wide. Stalactites hanging from the ceiling glowed faint blue in the beam of his lamp, lending the space a gloomy, eerie atmosphere. Lin Chen shivered. Even through his diving suit, goosebumps rose across his arms. Shaking off his unease, he switched on his chest-mounted flashlight and swam slowly through the cavern. Soon he spotted numerous fissures along the walls. They varied in width. The narrowest barely fit an arm. He swam up to the nearest one and shone his light inside. Total blackness swallowed the beam, revealing nothing of what lay beyond. Sweeping his torch across the rock face, he picked the widest-looking crack and swam toward it. Its opening was roughly 1.5 meters wide, tapering further inward. Lin Chen hesitated, reluctant to go inside. But what if a supply crate lay hidden within? Curiosity overcame his apprehension. Turning sideways in the water, he wriggled inside little by little. His flashlight beam swept back and forth. Rough rock walls were slick with dark green moss, and he slipped easily deeper. After roughly 10 meters, the crack ended in a dead end. Ugh! Nothing but a dead end. Should never have bothered. Wish the sonar still worked. He backed out and tried a second fissure. That one was even shallower, terminating after only 5 or 6 meters. As he emerged, Shun Lingxi spoke over the communicator. Lin Chun, any discoveries? Nothing yet. I'll check the other side. Glancing around, Lin Chun swam toward another broad fissure off to his left. Something flickered at the corner of his vision. Every hair on Lin Chen's body stood on end. He spun around instinctively. He twisted sharply, his flashlight beams sweeping across the space. A figure vanished the instant the light fell upon it. Lin Chen's nerves were stretched taut. He twisted back and forth, trying desperately to relocate whatever he had glimpsed. Yet the figure was gone, as though it had never existed inside the cavern. Was that my imagination? Lin Chen wondered. Maybe constant stress had frayed his senses. Just as the thought crossed his mind, a woman slowly emerged from a half-meter-wide fissure directly opposite him. She wore no diving suit. Her bare upper body faced him, staring straight into the beam of his flashlight. Lin Chen's mind went completely blank. Cold terror shot straight up his spine. His whole body stiffened in fright. Lingxi, open the hatch. Now. Lin Chun yelled at the top of his lungs, sprinting madly back toward the submarine without looking behind him. Lin Chun, what is it? I heard you shout. What's wrong? Shen Lingxi's alarmed voice came over comms. Lin Chun could not spare breath for replies, only shouting repeatedly. Open the hatch. Open the hatch. He scrambled into the airlock and stumbled into the cockpit, his body shaking uncontrollably. Shen Lingxi jumped to her feet, shocked by his state. Lin Chun, what dash? There is someone here. Lin Chun cut her off, his voice trembling visibly. Inside this cavern, there is another person. What? Shen Lingxi's eyes went wide. Gasping for breath, Lin Chun stammered through everything he had just witnessed. Shen Lingxi's pupils constricted. A chill ran from her soles to the crown of her head, and her scalp prickled. That can't possibly be true, she said shrilly. We are 150 meters under the ocean. This terrified them even more than the shadow octopus. A giant octopus was at least comprehensible as a wild beast. Encountering an unprotected human deep beneath the sea defied everything they understood about reality. Shen Lingxi's lips paled. Tears welled in her eyes. She threw herself into Lin Chen's arms and clung tightly to the back of his diving suit, shaking all over. Lin Chen's heart hammered wildly too, yet instinctively wrapped his arms around her shoulders. They huddled together inside the cockpit. Only physical closeness dulled their overwhelming fear. Silence reigned outside the submarine. The fissures in the rock wall resembled countless watching eyes, observing them soundlessly. After a long while, both calmed somewhat. Neither pulled away. Shen Lingxi spoke softly, her voice muffled against his shoulder. Lin Chun, I'm so scared. Could we have seen a ghost? I don't know, but think logically. If the deep blue system exists despite defying common sense, mermaids might not be completely impossible. The thought eased much of Lin Chen's fear. Most mermaid stories he remembered were gentle and beautiful. Shen Lingxi felt a little calmer as well, her breathing steadying. If it is a mermaid, she probably won't hurt us, right? Lin Chen paused. He reflected. The creature had made no move to attack. She could easily have circled behind him if she meant harm. Still, he could not be certain. What if she toyed with prey the way cats toy with mice? He kept that worrying thought to himself, unwilling to shatter their fragile calm. He changed the subject. Lingxi, do you know? Right before the deep blue system appeared, bird blood fell from the sky and landed on my neck. I thought I was going to die. Then I woke up in the ocean. I suspect that is why I only started with a single oxygen mask. That does not add up. Lots of people got splashed by bird blood. One of my roommates was hit right in front of me. She was corroded instantly. Shen Lingxi shuddered at the memory. I can still hear her screaming in agony. Lin Chen held her a little tighter. It is all right. It is all over now. Shen Lingxi shook her head against his chest. I'm fine. Those memories are just horrific, and I try not to think about them. 2 hours passed. The mysterious woman never reappeared. Their fear gradually faded. Lin Chen, I have always wanted to ask you. After the apocalypse, are none of your family or friends nearby? Why did nobody come for you? Lin Chen fell silent for several seconds. I never really had close friends. I have always been alone. What about your parents? My mother died giving birth to me. My father passed away in a workplace accident when I was 15. Shen Lingxi stiffened, lifting her face toward him, eyes glistening. Oh, I'm so sorry. I should never have asked. It is fine, Lin Chen said quietly. That was a long time ago. I have learned to live with it. He paused and looked down at her. What about you? You survive all alone out here on the ocean. Have you tried reaching your family or friends? They got in touch right when the apocalypse began. but they were all the way on the other side of Blue Star, so there was no way I could meet up with them anytime soon. Fortunately, the two of them weren't far apart and could look out for each other. That eases my mind quite a bit. Lin Chun tightened his arms and pulled her gently against his chest. Don't worry. They'll be fine. She rested her head against his chest again. Lin Chun suddenly remembered something. He let go of Shun Lingxi and opened his system backpack. Oh right, we haven't looked at the blueprints from that basic supply crate we found in the sunken ship Fisher. He pulled out several sheets of blueprint all at once. The first was the garment-making blueprint. It listed crafting recipes for all kinds of clothing. T-shirts, hoodies, jackets, long trousers, shorts, and more. The material requirement was simple. Ordinary fiber was all you needed. Clothing. Shin Lingxi's eyes lit up, only to dim right away. They hardly had time to think about clothes right now. The second blueprint was for sanitary pad production. Both Shin Lingxi and Lin Chen froze. They stared at the familiar diagram and instructions, crafted from regular fiber and natural sponge, designed to meet female survivors' menstrual hygiene needs. Shin Lingxi's cheeks flushed bright red. She quickly took the blueprint out of Lin Chen's hands. I'll keep this one safe. Lin Chen cleared his throat awkwardly and hastily pulled out the third blueprint. Cigarette-making blueprint. Required materials: sargassum harvest black seagrass, seaweed fluff harvest black seagrass, ambergris obtained from sperm whale droppings or by defeating sperm whales. Lin Chen's eyes went wide. Sperm whales. That's practically a luxury resource from the deep sea. He tossed it straight into system storage. They would have no use for it anytime soon. The final blueprint was the hydraulic breaker blueprint. Basic grade equipment. Usable handheld or mounted onto the submarine's robotic arm. Essential for alloy mining. Deals armor-breaking damage against sea beasts of Tier 3 and below. Required materials: basic alloy times 20, basic energy core times 20. Lin Chun had plenty of basic energy cores, but almost no alloy. Still, this piece of gear was a must-craft. It would make future alloy mining far easier. He stored the blueprint and glanced at the rear-view monitor on the control panel. The shadow octopus's tentacles kept writhing inside the rock fissure. Damn, that octopus sure is persistent. Shin Lingxi bit her lip. What do we do now? Lin Chen fell silent for a few seconds. He was completely stuck. There was no way he was leaving the submarine. Even if someone told him high-grade supply crates were hidden in those cracks, he would refuse to go out. He would rather stay safe inside. He walked over to the pilot's seat and ran his fingers across the control panel. The submarine is damaged, but it can still move. We'll circle along the cave wall and look for another exit. What if we run into that mysterious person again? Shin Lingxi asked quietly. Lin Chen's grip on the control stick visibly trembled. Don't say things like that. You're tempting fate. Sit tight and fasten your safety belt. You're just as bad at tempting fate. Don't lecture me. Shin Lingxi muttered quietly as she buckled her seatbelt tightly. The low rumble of the Tier 2 submarine echoed through the underwater cavern, releasing a large air bubble. Lin Chen slowly pushed the control stick forward, and the submarine glided along the cave wall. Searchlight beams cut through the dark water, illuminating the rock ahead. Stalactites hanging from the cave ceiling swayed gently in the current under the light. The submarine completed a full circuit along the wall, sweeping every inch with its searchlights, and returned to its starting point. No other exit had been found. Back inside the original fissure, the shadow octopus's tentacles still writhed, like several deep purple giant serpents brushing back and forth against the rock. Lin Chen sighed helplessly. Did we do something to anger it? Why is it so fixated on us? Shin Lingxi was equally frustrated. I know, right? Once we get strong enough, we're going to get back at it. Let's head down to the cave floor. There might be supplies down there. Okay. The searchlight beam plunged downward into the murky depths. It took a moment for the light to reach the bottom. The cave floor was surprisingly flat, as though it had been deliberately smoothed over, covered in a layer of dark gray sediment. The submarine touched down softly, stirring up clouds of silt. Specks of metallic luster dotted the surrounding rock, glinting cold silver gray under the lamps. That's alloy ore. Shin Lingxi recognized it instantly. She had gotten stuck multiple times trying to mine or before. More than once Lin Chen had showed up just in time to help her out. Lin Chen spotted it too. Without hesitation, he operated the robotic arm and began mining. Mining with the robotic arm was far easier than doing it manually. Soon, a system notification chimed. Obtained basic alloy times 10. Shin Lingxi's eyes widened. That was so fast. Basic alloy 2. Has the Tier 2 submarine's robotic arm gotten this powerful? We just got 10 units in such a short time. I never got around to telling you. I awakened the lucky aura talent, giving me 10 full drop rates. Shin Lingxi was stunned. Wow, that's amazing. Teaming up with you was definitely the right call. Lin Chen kept speaking. Still, the robotic arm itself is much faster after the upgrade. I remember how tough mining used to be for you. Lin Chen, be honest. Have you been paying extra attention to me? A faint blush rose on Lin Chen's face. Instead of arguing, he kept mining ore. Seeing him blush and stay quiet, Shen Lingxi teased him playfully, but Lin Chen stayed focused on gathering resources. Soon he collected another 10 units of basic alloy. Lin Chen quickly opened the system crafting interface and began building the hydraulic breaker. Materials requirements satisfied. Begin crafting? Lin Chen selected yes without hesitation. Choose mounting position. 1. Left robotic arm 2. Right robotic arm 3. Handheld. Lin Chen thought for a moment and chose the right robotic arm. He felt safer inside the submarine and still had no intention of going outside. Mount complete. Consumes 1 weapon slot. 1 weapon slot remaining. Lin Chen had not expected it to use a weapon slot, yet he had no regrets. Alloy gathering was their top priority, and he dared not leave the sub, so this was the best option. He wasted no time and operated his new tool to keep mining alloy. Shen Lingxi had calmed down. Though she still felt flustered, she grew excited upon seeing the hydraulic breaker attached to the robotic arm. Great! Now we have a weapon. Can we fight that octopus now? Don't get your hopes up. That's a tier for sea beast. This tool would barely scratch it. I know, I was just joking. An hour later, Lin Chen finished mining the entire deposit. In total, he gained 3,600 units of basic alloy. Amazing haul. Tools make all the difference. Lin Chen grinned, looking at the huge stockpile and system storage. Just as he prepared to move to another mining zone, the entire cavern shook violently. Countless fist-sized bubbles surged all around the submarine. Lin Chen adjusted the vessel and aimed the searchlight upward. Enormous stalactites drifted down through the water toward them. Though they fell slowly underwater, the submarine already sustained damage. A direct hit could cause catastrophic failure. Lin Chen operated the robotic arm, aiming the hydraulic breaker at a stalactite about to strike the submarine. Powerful vibrations shattered the 8-meter-long, 2-meter-thick formation into rock fragments that clattered against the portholes. Lin Chen could not cover every direction. Several stalactites scraped along the submarine hull, producing shrill grinding noises, yet no serious damage occurred. He let out a breath and retracted the robotic arm. Then, at the edge of his vision, massive octopus tentacles pushed through the widened fissure and entered the cavern. Lin Chen's heart sank. No, the octopus got inside. The tremors must have widened the rock cracks. Shen Lingxi gripped her safety harness tightly and squeezed her eyes shut. Lin Chen rushed to open system storage and converted 250 units of basic alloy into intermediate alloy. The synthesis finished in under a minute. He immediately opened the crafting menu and selected the Trident of Poseidon. Crafting Trident of Poseidon. Estimated completion time, 3 minutes. Lin Chen grew anxious, clenching his fists and hitting the armrest of his seat. The hydraulic breaker had only taken 30 seconds to craft. He had not expected the Trident to need 3 full minutes. Meanwhile, half the shadow octopus's head pushed through the opening. It would soon enter the cavern completely. Lin Chen readied the robotic arm with the hydraulic breaker, bracing himself for a desperate stand. 1 minute passed. The shadow octopus fully emerged, its bulk filling much of the cavern ceiling. Lin Chen, are we going to die? Shen Lingxi kept her eyes squeezed shut. We've got my lucky aura on our side. We aren't dying that easily. Lin Chen tried to reassure her, though he was also trying to calm his own nerves. He could feel the shadow octopus's dark eyes fixed on the submarine. Another minute ticked by. The octopus assumed its battle stance. 8 tentacles, each 5 meters thick, anchored themselves to the cavern's ceiling, ready to strike. Lin Chen stared unblinkingly, prepared to activate the hydraulic breaker at any moment. If we go down, I'm making it pay dearly. As the two sides stood deadlocked, a figure glided into view from above and behind the submarine, placing itself between the vessel and the shadow octopus. Lin Chen stared in shock. She has legs. She isn't a mermaid. Curiosity made Shen Lingxi open her eyes. Outside the porthole floated a woman. Fish, like fins jutted from her trapezius muscles behind her hair, swaying gently in the seawater. Shen Lingxi gaped in astonishment. Lin Chen was equally stunned, swallowing hard. Then the shadow octopus on the cavern's ceiling moved. Its 8 tentacles shot forward like arrows. Lin Chen was about to fire the hydraulic breaker, but the mysterious woman lifted her right hand. The shadow octopus froze mid-charge. She slowly turned her head. Lin Chen got a clear look at her face. Small fins grew from her ears and the top of her head. 2 rows of gills along her neck stood out prominently. The two inside the submarine stared, unsure of her intentions. Her eyes shifted as though trying to communicate something. Run! A faint voice echoed inside Lin Chen's mind. He could barely make out the words. Lingxi, did you hear someone speak? Shen Lingxi shook her head. You must have imagined it. It's just us in here. Even if that woman spoke outside, sound wouldn't travel to us. Lin Chen wondered aloud. Do you think she wants us to go out and attack the octopus while it is restrained? Maybe she is telling us to flee. Ding. Trident of Poseidon crafting complete. Lin Chen brightened. No time to argue. The trident is ready. This is our chance to fight back against the octopus. He put on his diving suit, grabbed the trident, and headed for the airlock compartment. Shen Lingxi spoke from behind him. Lin Chen, good luck. I can cast buffs on you. Lin Chen paused. I didn't know you could do buffs. Aren't you a healer talent? You never asked. Healers are supposed to give buffs. Hurry. I don't think she can hold it for much longer. Shen Lingxi hurried over, closed her eyes, held both hands toward his chest, and a visible ball of light flew into his body. Power surged through Lin Chen. Without another word, he stepped quickly into the wet, dry transition airlock. Go get it. Shen Lingxi called out excitedly to him. Fight the octopus. Lin Chen heard her encouragement from inside the airlock and gave a faint smile. Seawater filled the compartment. Inside the airlock, Lin Chen glanced down at the trident of Poseidon. Its shaft shimmered with faint blue light, flickering through rippling water. The outer hatch latches clicked and unlocked. Lin Chen took a deep breath, pushed the hatch open, and kicked hard off the wall. He shot outward, nearly slamming into rock. He had not anticipated how much the buff combined with the trident's movement. Speed boost amplified his burst speed. A determined look crossed his face. He raised the trident of Poseidon and charged straight for the immobilized shadow octopus. The mysterious woman stared in bewilderment as Lin Chen rushed forward. She had wanted them to escape while she held the beast back, not attack. Her arm trembled. She could not maintain suppression for much longer. Lingxi, what exactly does your buff do? Lin Chen asked while swimming forward. Shen Lingxi sounded proud over comms. It temporarily doubles your attack power and defense. I told you I could be useful. Lin Chen's hopes rose. That's incredibly strong. How long does it last? 3 minutes. Lin Chen frowned. Only 3 minutes? Why cast it so early? Can you only cast it at close range? Shen Lingxi fidgeted slightly. The octopus was held still. I thought 3 minutes would be enough time. Lin Chen did not reply. He was already right in front of the shadow octopus. Take this, he shouted, driving the glowing blue trident forward with the force of the currents, stabbing deep into the octopus's crown. Squelch. The entire trident sank inside its flesh. Clouds of black ink billowed out. No system kill notification appeared. Lin Chen kept pressing the attack, swinging the trident repeatedly. Water swirled into a vortex all around him. The shadow octopus's massive head sustained heavy damage, yet kept regenerating its wounds. 3 minutes later, the buff wore off. The octopus's head was reduced to half its original size, but the beast was still alive. Depleted of strength, Lin Chen gripped his trident tightly. He was shocked by its powerful regeneration. Lingxi, can you apply another buff? Lin Chen called out with great effort. Shen Lingxi sounded embarrassed. No. There is a 10-minute cooldown. 7 minutes still remain. Can you restore my stamina? My healing abilities also replenish energy. Hold on. Shen Lingxi raised her hands toward Lin Chen again, and a beam of green light passed through the porthole onto him. Meanwhile, the mysterious woman reached her absolute limit. Prominent veins bulged across her forehead. The shadow octopus's body convulsed. 3 tentacles broke free of her mental restraint and lashed toward Lin Chen at terrifying speed. Lin Chen's eyes widened. He rolled sharply to one side. One tentacle swept past his back, tossing him spinning through the water. The second tentacle came immediately. Unable to stabilize his posture, he crossed the trident in front of himself to block. Boom. A heavy crash resonated underwater. Lin Chen felt as though struck by a truck. His arms went numb. He flew backward and slammed hard against the cavern wall, partially embedding himself inside rock. Lin Chen. Shen Lingxi screamed over comms, continuously channeling healing toward him. Lin Chen sustained severe compound fractures to both arms. Even with Shen Lingxi's healing magic, sharp pain made him cough blood. Blood clouded his vision. The Tier 4C beast's strength was overwhelming. His diving suit filtered away the blood. Lin Chen inspected his trident. Not a single scratch marred its surface. The weapon held up perfectly, but his body could not take the punishment. The shadow octopus gave him no time to recover. The third tentacle swung toward him, then altered course mid-swing, whipping hard at the submarine. Damn it! Lin Chen's expression turned grim. The tentacle crashed against the submarine's hull with a deafening bang. The vessel lurched violently. Metal screeched. Strapped in by her harness, Shen Lingxi jolted wildly inside the cockpit. Lingxi, Lin Chen shouted. I'm all right. That scared me half to death. Her voice trembled with fright. Lin Chen glanced toward the exhausted, mysterious woman and spoke quickly to Shen Lingxi. Heal her and restore her energy. Without her suppression, we are all dead. Shen Lingxi steadied the submarine and directed her healing light onto the woman. One more tentacle of the shadow octopus coiled, ready to smash the submarine again. Lin Chen pulled himself free of the rock wall, kicked off hard, and swam fast back toward the submarine. Come on, he roared, swinging the trident of Poseidon down onto the incoming tentacle. Blue light blazed, sending slicing shockwaves through the seawater. Slice! The 5-meter thick tentacle was severed. Blue blood gushed everywhere. Lin Chen, look out! Shen Lingxi warned, spotting another tentacle darting straight for him. Lin Chen looked up. The tentacle was less than 5 meters away. He knew he could not dodge. He gritted his teeth and held the trident above his head. The tentacle halted half a meter before striking him. Lin Chen glanced toward the mysterious woman. She had regained enough power to restrain it once more. Without delay, he struck hard at the trapped tentacle. He only managed to carve a bowl-sized wound. He could not sever it completely. Lin Chen, I have exhausted all my energy. I cannot keep this up any longer. Shen Lingxi collapsed weakly into her co-pilot seat and lowered her hands. Lin Chen's stamina had run out once more. Without Shen Lingxi's physical replenishment, that mysterious woman would not be able to hold on for much longer either. Meanwhile, the severed tentacle of the shadow octopus had begun to regrow slowly. Suddenly, a voice echoed inside Lin Chen's mind again, far clearer than before. The shadow octopus has 3 hearts, all located behind its eyes. Pierce all 3 at once, or they will regenerate. Lin Chen had no time to wonder where the voice came from. All his earlier reckless strikes had failed to hit the vital organs. His mind raced frantically. How could he pierce all 3 hearts in a single blow? Its head was enormous. There was no way to locate the hearts from the outside. If I cannot see them out here, I will go inside. Lin Chen swam laboriously over and stopped upon one of the tentacles right in front of the shadow octopus's eyes. This is the spot. Gasping heavily, he gripped the trident of the sea god tightly in both hands. Break! Lin Chen roared, pouring forth every ounce of his strength. He pushed hard off the tentacle with his legs, driving his full weight behind the thrust. The trident of the sea god sank deep into its forehead. Blue-colored blood gushed out from the gash. Lin Chen did not stop. He clutched the trident firmly, bracing his shoulders against its rear end, shoving it inward inch by inch. Its sharp blade sliced through muscle and tore cartilage, carving open a gap large enough for him to squeeze through. Releasing one hand, he grabbed the edge of the wound and poked his head inside. It was pitch black, and the stench was overwhelming. Thick viscous fluid wrapped all around him. The powerful flashlight built into his second-grade diving suit illuminated less than half a meter through clouds of blood mist. A heavy, fishy stench penetrated the suit's filtration system, and Lin Chen nearly retched. Gritting his teeth, he forced his whole body inward. Inside the shadow octopus's skull lay a massive, pulsating fleshy sac. The surrounding walls constricted and rippled non-stop. The slimy liquid made him feel deeply nauseated even through his diving gear. He swept the flashlight beam through the swirling blood mist. Where are the hearts? He slid several meters downward along the flesh wall. Then the beam caught sight of a huge throbbing mass, one of the hearts. It stood twice as tall as he was, wrapped beneath a dark, purple membrane that contracted rhythmically. With every beat, it pumped torrents of blue blood through thick blood vessels toward every part of its body. Beside it, 2 tentacle-like nerve bundles quivered, connecting to the nerve center behind its eye sockets. Lin Chen lifted his trident and drove it hard into the heart. Squelch! The tip pierced the outer wall. Blue blood splattered all over him. The octopus's body jolted violently. Its entire skull convulsed, hurling Lin Chen wildly from side to side. Lin Chen held tight to his weapon and stabilized himself against the shifting flesh. One down. He pulled out the trident and searched for the second heart amid the violent shaking. As the flashlight wavered through the mist, he spotted another throbbing shadow off to his left front. The second heart was noticeably smaller, yet beating far faster. The octopus began contracting inward. Flesh and internal organs pressed in on him from all directions. Time was running out. Planting his feet against the slippery tissue, he lunged forward and struck again with the trident. Another wet squelch echoed as the second heart was pierced through. Convulsions racked the creature even more violently. The inner cavity twisted and deformed. Trapped between thrashing tissue walls, Lin Chun felt sharp pain shoot through his ribs, and breathing grew difficult. One more remained. He struggled desperately within the warping cavity, sweeping the flashlight blindly. Blood mist thickened further. Visibility dropped to less than 20 centimeters. Where is it? Where on earth is it? His voice sounded muffled and hopeless inside the enclosed skull. All of a sudden, his left fingertips brushed against something throbbing. It was the third heart, less than half a meter away, concealed behind a flap of hanging muscle. Joy flared in Lin Chun, yet his strength was completely spent. He could no longer even lift the trident. Gritting his jaws, he braced the trident against the tissue wall, pressed his chest against its butt, and leaned his full weight forward. The trident advanced slowly through obstructing muscle. Every centimeter cost him nearly all his remaining vitality. Half a meter left. He let out a low snarl, pushed hard off the slippery flesh with his legs. The trident tore through blocking tissue, and its tip buried itself accurately inside the third heart. Squelch! The third heart was pierced, but the octopus did not die instantly. Its body stiffened for a couple of seconds, then convulsed with even greater ferocity. Surrounding flesh walls clamped down hard on Lin Chun, sending fresh waves of pain through his ribs. He endured, watching the spasms gradually subside. Violent full body tremors gave way to smaller twitches, until only faint vibrations lingered in the muscle fibers. After roughly a dozen seconds, complete silence fell. The contracting tissue relaxed. All shaking ceased. Only the gurgle of flowing blood slowly faded away. Lying inside the octopus's skull, Lin Chun gasped for air. He rested for another dozen seconds before regaining enough strength. He pulled free his trident, located the opening he had made earlier, and scrambled back outside. Seawater washed over him at once. The cold water cleared his mind. Floating in the ocean, he glanced backward. The shadow octopus's corpse sank slowly, its 8 tentacles hanging limp. The surrounding seawater had turned deep blue, black from its spilled blood. Only then did clear system notifications unfold inside his mind. Defeated 4th, Tier C Beast, Shadow Octopus. Obtained, Tyrant Tentacle times 80. Obtained, High-Grade Crystal Core times 50. Obtained, Octopus Flesh times 500 units. Unexpected drop, Skill Book, Shadow Stealth times 1. Lin Chun had not expected materials dropped by a 4th, Tier C Beast to come in such large stacks. To his surprise, he had also gained a skill book. An extra drop trigger. That is incredibly rare. Ever since I awakened my talent, I had only read about this in its description. Excitement surged through him, but soon he smacked his chest in frustration. What a waste. I used my lucky critical strike against some trivial jellyfish. Why was I so foolish? He dared not imagine what tremendous rewards he might have reaped had he saved lucky critical strike for this fight. Lin Chun, are you all right? Lin Chun. Shin Lingxi's voice crackled over the communicator, half relieved, half teary. I'm alive. Lin Chun forced a faint smile. He wanted to crack a light-hearted joke, yet no words came out. He turned toward the submarine. The mysterious woman was nowhere to be seen. Scanning his surroundings, he spotted her drifting beside rock formations directly underneath the vessel. Eyes shut, having plainly lost consciousness. Barely clinging to consciousness himself, Lin Chun swam toward her. The shadow octopus corpse kept sinking. Its 8 tentacles drooped loosely like a deflating giant balloon as its body shrank continuously. Spilled blue blood dyed the seawater dark, severely limiting visibility. Lin Chun strained to focus his vision through the dim ocean. The mysterious woman drifted beside the rocks under the submarine, swaying gently in faint currents as weightless as a feather. Her eyes stayed closed, arms hanging loosely at her sides. Wispy streaks of blue blood drifted from the corners of her mouth and slowly dissolved in the seawater. Lin Chun reached her side. Brief glimpses during the earlier chaos had prevented him from observing her fully. Now he could study her carefully. Suspended in the faint blue ocean light, her skin carried a pale silver, blue sheen reminiscent of moonlight across the sea surface. Smooth and flawless, her proportions resembled those of a human woman, with long limbs and a slender waist. Yet her beauty held an otherworldly quality. Lin Chun's gaze fell upon the gill slits on either side of her neck. 3 long narrow slits stretched from below her earlobes up to her collarbones. Their thin sharp edges resembled blades pressed flat against her skin. The slits opened and closed in time with her shallow breathing, revealing deep, red gill filaments inside. Soft yet tough. Each movement filtered seawater automatically in an involuntary respiratory rhythm. He lifted his gaze and looked at her face. Her facial structure was largely human-like, with a straight nose, thin slightly parted lips, and soft jawline. Still, even with her eyes shut, there was something distinctly inhuman about her presence. Long eyelashes cast fine shadows across her cheeks under the searchlight. Most striking of all was the faint purple glow seeping through her closed eyelids, flickering like dormant gemstones. She possessed no eyebrows. Instead, fine silver scales curved gracefully along that area, shimmering faintly with metallic luster under illumination. Her ears were larger than human ones, shaped like folded seashells. Fine translucent fin, like cartilage, fringed their edges, and trembled softly in the currents. Several finger-sized crests ringed her hairline like an ornate small crown, swaying gently with the water flow. Lin Chun then noticed her hands. A thin translucent webbing connected the base of each finger, nearly invisible unless viewed up close. Her nails were pale purple, long and sharp, more akin to bony growths. Recalling how startled he had been upon first seeing her, Lin Chun felt warmth rise to his cheeks. Lin Chun, answer me. Shen Lingxi's anxious voice came through the communicator. Why have you stopped moving? Are you staring at that woman? Lin Chun snapped back to reality. Don't talk nonsense. I'm just observing her condition. Though exhausted, Shen Lingxi sounded distinctly annoyed. Staring at her like that, and trying to justify it. She saved us. You ought to show proper respect. Lin Chun sighed inwardly, and chose not to reply. Seeing he remained stationary, Shen Lingxi spoke again, exasperated. Lin Chun, what are you waiting for? Bring our savior back quickly. Understood, I'm coming. Lin Chun replied. He slipped his arms beneath her back and behind her knees and lifted her carefully. To his surprise, she felt almost weightless buoyed by seawater. Her skin was cool and smooth, polished like stone worn smooth by endless tides, yet surprisingly firm to the touch. Holding her felt akin to lifting dense rock with no buoyant weight underwater. She showed no reaction. Her head lolled against his arm, lips parted, neck, side gill slits still opening and closing mechanically. Lin Chun turned and swam toward the submarine. Lingxi, open the outer airlock. On it. Shen Lingxi responded excitedly over comms. The outer hatch of the wet, dry transition chamber slid open. Warm yellow light spilled outward like a lighthouse amid the dim cavern. The brutal fight was over. They could head home. Lin Chun carried the woman inside the narrow airlock. Space was tight with two of them inside. Supporting her upright with one arm looped under her armpits, he pressed the button to seal the outer hatch. The hatch slowly closed. The drainage system activated, and water levels dropped until it reached their necks. Lin Chun noticed the woman stir. Her gill slits contracted sharply, and her body twitched uncomfortably. What is happening? Lin Chun grew alarmed. Water continued draining. Her gill slits fluttered faster and faster, shifting from steady respiration to spasmodic heaving. A low-pained whimper escaped her, the first sound he had ever heard her make. Lin Chun realized immediately. Can she only breathe underwater? His finger darted toward the button to halt drainage, ready to refill the chamber. Just before pressing it, her spasms subsided. Her gill slits went still, and she began inhaling and exhaling through nose and mouth instead. Lin Chun exhaled in relief and allowed drainage to resume. As seawater receded completely, her weight increased rapidly. He could no longer support her with one arm, and had to wrap both arms around her torso to hold her upright, already stretched to his physical limit. Supporting her grew extremely taxing. Good grief. What strange physiology. She weighs so much without water buoyancy. The inner hatch finally opened. Lin Chun stumbled into the cabin together with the unconscious woman, jostling the whole submarine. Shen Lingxi paid no mind to the rocking vessel. Curiosity overriding her fatigue, her eyes fixed firmly on the woman in Lin Chun's arms. Wow, she is absolutely stunning. Shen Lingxi's mouth fell open in amazement. Shen Lingxi knelt down and studied the mysterious woman carefully. As a medical student, she was fascinated by this human, like unknown being. She stretched out one hand and gently touched the gill slits on the woman's neck. The moment her fingertips brushed against the fine gill filaments, the woman's body gave a small tremor. Shen Lingxi pulled her hand back instinctively, then reached out once more and touched her face. The hard texture contrasted sharply with her soft, looking appearance. Wow, she feels so firm, Shen Lingxi exclaimed. Lin Chun nodded. Exactly, like solid stone. She must weigh close to 200 Gene. Yet underwater, she felt nearly weightless. Do you have any idea how that works? Shen Lingxi did not answer right away. Resting a finger against her chin, she tilted her head deep in thought. Lin Chun watched her and found her pensive look rather charming. He kept his eyes fixed on her. Lingxi soon noticed his gaze and her cheeks flushed. After a moment she spoke. I think I get it. She must possess large internal cavities for storing seawater or gas, adjusting her overall density by filling or expelling contents. Lin Chen raised an eyebrow. If she really weighs 200 gene, those cavities would have to be enormous. Her body size is similar to yours. Where would all her internal organs fit? Lingxi fell silent for several seconds. Then she looked serious. You are right. Such anatomy would not be biologically feasible. But I cannot think of any other explanation. Unless, she glanced up toward Lin Chen. Unless we perform a dissection to find out? Lin Chen stared at her in shock, lost for words. I was only joking. Look how startled you are. Lingxi stuck out her tongue playfully. She looked back down at the woman and brushed her finger lightly against the translucent fin, cartilage behind her ear. It swayed softly beneath her touch, shimmering silver blue. She is so beautiful. Lingxi sighed. Suddenly, she remembered something and turned toward Lin Chen. By the way, we cannot leave her without proper clothing. Could you craft some garments for her? Make one for me too, while you are at it. You. Lin Chen trailed off. He opened his system panel and navigated to the clothing crafting menu. Many basic garments could be synthesized using common fiber materials. Scrolling through the list, his gaze settled on one option, and he selected it. Lingxi continued examining the unconscious woman with great curiosity. Moments later, Lin Chen grabbed her hand and placed newly crafted clothing into her palms. Lingxi glanced down, and 3 large question marks practically popped above her head. 2 sets of bright, pink swimsuits lay in her hands, fabric thin and lightweight. This is what you crafted? Lin Chen wore a completely serious expression. Don't you think swimsuits are perfectly practical underwater? Lingxi took a deep breath. Lin Chen. Do you have some fundamental misunderstanding of what proper clothing is? Lin Chen blinked. What is wrong? Swimsuits are still clothing. Simple design, minimal material. Perfect for underwater mobility. Practical my foot. Lingxi stood up and tossed the swimsuit straight at his face. Hands planted on her hips, she faced him. Even if you made swimsuits, why make one for her too? What are you thinking? I just thought. Wait, did you just give yourself away? Lingxi's face burned bright red, realizing what she had accidentally said. She snapped at once. Be quiet. She berated him thoroughly. Your way of thinking is completely off. Do you misunderstand how to treat women? Lin Chen could only nod along, stunned by her outburst. It was not until Lingxi talked herself hoarse that he asked in a soft voice. So, what exactly are you looking for? Lingxi parted her lips to answer, yet her words died in her throat. She glanced at the gills and fins covering the mysterious woman's body, then looked at the swimwear hanging on Lin Chen's head. After a long silence, she bit her lip and forced out a few words. That swimwear actually suits her quite well. Then why were you yelling at me just now? I was mad that you made a set of that swimwear for me too. Lingxi slapped his arm lightly. Make me a normal outfit right now. All right, whatever you say. Lin Chen reopened his system panel. Scrolling through the clothing catalog, he picked out a crew, neck short, sleeve top, and knee-length athletic shorts. He hesitated briefly when selecting fabric quality. He had crafted the swimwear out of standard, grade fabric on a whim. And he grew curious about the properties of high-tier fabric, as the system contained no explanatory notes on the material differences. Clothing production required very little fabric. Nearly every piece only consumed 1 unit of raw material. He opened the synthesis interface and combined 2 units of rare, grade fabric. His stock of standard fabric stood at just over 1,000 units. Barely enough for the synthesis. Lin Chen used the 2 rare fabric units to tailor a full outfit for Lingxi. While Lin Chen worked on the clothes, Lingxi tried to dress the unconscious woman in the swimwear. But the stranger's body was far too heavy. Already drained of stamina, she could not lift her an inch off the ground. The garment was finished soon after. Lin Chen ran his palm over the fabric woven from rare fiber. Feeling a texture unlike anything he had ever touched before, he held it out to Lingxi. Here you go. Try it on. The moment Lingxi's fingertips brushed the cloth, her eyes lit up instantly. She pressed the fabric against her cheek and rubbed it gently, her expression morphing into one of pure amazement. Wow, this is unbelievably soft. Even softer than the silk pajamas I used to own. This is crafted from rare fiber, after all. You splurged this much? You synthesized it from regular fiber, didn't you? That must have cost. Lingxi trailed off and began counting on her fingers. 1,250 standard fiber units. You really are insanely lucky. Lin Chen smiled faintly. There's no telling if it has any special attributes. The system gave 0 details. Hurry and put it on to test it out. Lingxi grabbed the clothes and hurried into the bedroom, shutting the door behind her. Several minutes passed before the door creaked open. She stepped out, tugging awkwardly at the hem of her shirt, with a faint blush dusting her cheeks. "Well, how do I look?" Lin lifted his gaze and stared at her for a moment. The crew necktop fit snugly, accentuating her slender waistline, while the athletic shorts ended just above her knees, exposing a stretch of fair calves. Under the submarine's lights, the rare fabric shimmered with a soft, lifelike glow. "You look fantastic," Lin blurted out honestly. Pink-tinted Lingxi's cheeks deeper. "Is it the clothes or me?" "The clothes are lovely, but you're far lovelier." Her face burned brighter, and she muttered quietly, "At least you have good taste." She then studied her new clothes from head to toe, growing more satisfied by the second. "Do you feel any physical changes? Like heightened energy or improved strength?" Lingxi waved her arms a few times and quickly grew winded from the small movement. She gasped for breath and replied, "As you can see, there aren't any combat buffs or stat boosts. But the comfort level is unmatched, and it regulates body temperature too. I was feeling overheated a minute ago, and now I'm perfectly cool." Lin nodded thoughtfully. It seemed rare fiber clothing offered no combat enhancements, only superior wearing comfort, still a welcome perk all the same. Once their excitement faded, the two worked together to dress the unconscious woman in the swimsuit. It was a halter one-piece design with an open back, perfectly accommodating her dorsal fins without covering them. The integrated structure also prevented slipping or shifting if she moved swiftly through the water. Lingxi shot Lin a sideways glance. "Didn't expect you to have such a good eye for practical designs." "Of course I do. You're talking to me after all." Lin was quite pleased with his handiwork. He soon sobered up and asked, "Will she be all right?" "She's most likely just unconscious from total physical exhaustion. I don't fully understand her bodily physiology, so I can't say for certain. We should get some sleep. We're both completely worn out." "Agreed. I could sleep for 3 whole days straight right now." They dimmed all the submarine lights and headed to their separate bunks to rest. Time ticked by amid the enclosed darkness and silence. The cabin was shrouded in pitch blackness, save for faint blue indicator lights glowing on the cockpit control panel, resembling distant stars scattered across the night sky. On the cabin floor, the mysterious woman slowly opened her eyes. Pale purple luminescence swirled within her pupils, glowing like 2 smoldering gemstones in the dark. The faint glow flickered once, twice before dimming and blending into the surrounding shadows. She attempted to move her body. Her limbs felt heavy, unbearably heavy. It was an alien sensation. In her natural habitat deep beneath the waves, her body had always floated weightlessly within seawater, every fluid movement effortless. Here, solid air pressed against every inch of her skin like a heavy restraint. Lifting a single arm demanded every ounce of her remaining strength. She strained to lift her head and looked down at herself. Though darkness blanketed the submarine, her vision cut through the blackness with perfect clarity. Her gaze settled on the pink fabric covering her torso and lower body. She pinched a small section of the material between 2 fingers, rubbing and tugging it curiously. The unfamiliar texture fascinated her deeply. The cloth stretched elastically before snapping back into its original shape each time she pulled it. It took her a long while to push herself upright from the metal flooring. She shuffled unsteadily toward the cockpit, scanning every surface inside the room with undisguised curiosity. The seats, control panels, ceiling lamps, portholes along the walls. Every object was foreign and unknown to her. Her eyes finally locked onto the main control console. To her, the metal casing, display screens, buttons and joysticks were nothing more than oddly shaped hard fragments she had never encountered before. She stretched out a finger and prodded one button cautiously. A soft click echoed through the quiet cockpit. She yanked her hand back instantly, staring warily at the button. When nothing happened after several seconds, she reached out again and pressed an adjacent switch. Another quiet click. Still no visible reaction. Growing bolder, she began pressing each button one after another, observing her surroundings intently with every press, much like a toddler exploring the world for the very first time. Fortunately, she never pressed the main power switch, avoiding potential malfunctions aboard the vessel. Growing bored with the buttons, she turned her attention to the rest of the cockpit space. Bracing herself against the wall, she paced slowly down the narrow corridor. She peeked into the washroom as she passed, fascinated by the toilet, sink, and shower nozzle. She brushed her fingertips against the cool metallic surface of the showerhead, flinching at the icy sensation before touching it once more. She continued forward until she reached a half-open door at the end of the corridor. The mysterious woman paused outside the doorway. She could sense it. A familiar aura lingered on the other side of the wood. The energy signature was akin to that of her own kin, yet subtly different. It was this faint aura that had guided her here in the first place. She pushed the door open gently with her palm. Her line of sight immediately landed on Lin Chun, asleep on the lower bunk of the bunk bed set against the wall. She watched his resting form for a long moment before walking slowly over to the bed and climbing onto the empty space beside him. Lin Chun slept deeply and soundly. Fresh off their deadly battle against the shadow octopus and the grueling effort of transporting the unknown woman back to the submarine, his body had hit its absolute physical limit. Curled on his side with steady, slow breathing, he had no idea someone had settled beside him in the narrow bunk. In the darkness, her purple pupils flickered softly like fireflies as she studied Lin Chen's face intently. The familiar aura so close at hand wrapped around her, bringing an unprecedented sense of calm. Lin Chen rolled over in his sleep. His arm drifted across her shoulder and came to rest lightly against her waist. The woman's entire body stiffened on the spot. She stared down at the hand resting against her midriff, her purple irises shifting toward the limb before returning to watch his sleeping features. She did not push his arm away, nor shift her body to create distance. She simply lay still, letting his arm remain where it fell, never taking her eyes off his face. She could not explain why she had wandered into this room, nor why she had sought out this human male. A primal instinct urged her to stay near him. She inched closer to his form, curled her limbs inward, and drifted back into slumber. Shen Lingxi woke up needing to use the restroom badly. She stirred drowsily, and the wooden frame of the upper bunk creaked under her weight. She fought against her grogginess for a few seconds before her bodily urge won out, prompting her to prop herself up into a seated position. The bedroom was pitch black. She felt her way down the bunk ladder, her bare feet meeting the cold floor and sending a small shiver through her frame. She fumbled toward the door and flipped the bedroom light switch with a soft snap. Shen Lingxi rubbed her sleepy eyes and headed for the washroom. The cool running water over her hands cleared her mind fully. She yawned into the bathroom mirror, shook excess water from her palms, and stepped back into the bedroom. The sight that greeted her froze her brain completely the second she stepped through the doorway. Lin Chun lay sound asleep on the lower bunk, covered by a thin blanket. This part was normal. What was not normal was the figure curled securely in his embrace, the mysterious woman. Her back faced Shen Lingxi, her silver, blue skin glowing softly under the lamplight. One of Lin Chen's arms wrapped loosely around her waist, his forehead nearly pressed to the top of her head. Their positioning was far too intimate, as if they had shared this sleeping arrangement countless times before. Shen Lingxi stood rigid in the doorway, convinced she was still trapped in a dream. She blinked hard, once then twice. The scene before her did not change in the slightest. She stepped backward, cut the light with another click, stood motionless in total darkness for 3 full seconds, then flipped the light back on. The exact same sight greeted her once more. This was no dream. Her mind turned into a jumbled mess instantly, dozens of questions exploding all at once inside her head. What on earth is going on? When did this woman get into our sleeping quarters? Why is she curled up in Lin Chen's bunk? Lin Chen, what were you even thinking? A surge of hot frustration flared from her soul straight to the crown of her head. She strode quickly to the bunk, hand raised to pull the stranger out of Lin Chen's hold, only to halt her motion halfway. Shen Lingxi drew a deep breath and lowered her hand. Instead, she reached out and shook Lin Chen's shoulder firmly. Lin Chen, wake up, she spoke in a hushed tone, barely containing her rising irritation. Lin Chen did not stir one bit, sunk deep in restorative sleep after their exhausting ordeals. A few gentle shakes were nowhere near enough to rouse him. Lin Chen, Shen Lingxi shook him harder, jostling his shoulder sharply. Lin Chen let out a low groan and furrowed his brows, yet his eyes remained shut tight. The commotion did stir the woman in his arms. She shifted slightly and nuzzled her head deeper into the crook of his neck like a cat seeking warmth and comfort. The sight made Shen Lingxi's frustration spike further. She gritted her teeth and forced herself to calm down, repeating the words silently in her head over and over again. She pinched the lobe of Lin Chen's ear and twisted it gently but firmly. A sharp hiss escaped Lin Chen's lips as he jolted awake, bleary-eyed and disoriented. What's wrong? His voice was rough with sleep, his consciousness still hazy and unfocused. You tell me what's wrong. Shen Lingxi's cheeks puffed out with obvious annoyance. Explain this mess right now. Lin Chen blinked slowly, his vision clearing enough to lock onto Shen Lingxi's furious expression before following her line of sight down to his own arms. That was when he spotted the silver, blue form curled against his torso. His pupils dilated abruptly, and he scrambled backward until his back pressed flush against the metal cabin wall. How did she? Lin Chen's mind circuit entirely. When did she climb into my bed? Shen Lingxi kept her voice lowered, though her anger was plain to hear. You're asking me? I'm the one who should be asking questions. I got up to use the bathroom, and came back to find you two curled up together. Nice work sneaking her into your bunk while I was asleep. I didn't do anything. Lin Chen pleaded his innocence. I was dead asleep the entire time. I had zero awareness of this. Asleep with no clue? Then how did she get onto your bunk by herself? Lin Chen opened his mouth, but could not formulate a single retort. The noise of their argument roused the mysterious woman from sleep. She lifted her head slowly, her purple irises glowing dimly beneath the lamplight as she sat upright. Her gaze never strayed from Lin Chen's face for a single second. Shen Lingxi watched her wake, and much of her sharp anger faded away. She cleared her throat and tried speaking in a softer tone. You're awake now. Can you understand what we're saying? The woman turned her head to glance at Shen Lingxi, tilting her head to observe her with quiet curiosity before redirecting her full attention back to Lin Chen. Shen Lingxi realized there was a language barrier between them. A twinge of jealousy pricked her seeing the stranger fixate solely on Lin Chen. She folded her arms across her chest and glared at Lin Chen with a pout. Lin Chen felt a chill run down his spine under Shen Lingxi's glare and prepared to speak when a voice, or rather, a stream of mental signals, resonated directly inside his mind. Can you hear my thoughts? Lin Chen froze, staring wide-eyed at the mysterious woman. You were the one who sent me the octopus's weakness earlier, he exclaimed out loud. A faint look of joy crossed the woman's features upon witnessing his reaction. You truly can receive my mental messages. Realizing Lin Chen could not send thoughts back using her natural communication method, she guided him through the process with her next mental transmission. Focus your mind. Condense the words you wish to say into a concentrated mental signal, then project it toward my consciousness. Lin Chen drew a deep breath and closed his eyes. He cleared all stray thoughts from his mind, focusing purely on the word hello and shaping it into a tangible mental mass, visualizing it as a small stone tossed toward the woman. Hello. The woman's eyes lit up brightly. That's it exactly. Can you feel the connection? Lin Chen could indeed sense it, a faint, invisible thread linking his mind to hers, carrying a gentle mental ripple when his message was successfully received. A surge of excitement washed over him, and sending his next thought came far more naturally. What should I call you? What is your name? The woman's eyes curved into a soft smile. My name is Qing Yao. Shen Lingxi stood beside them thoroughly confused, watching the pair exchange silent eye contact with Lin Chen grinning to himself the whole time. She tugged on Lin Chen's arm to pull him out of the moment. Hey, what exactly are the two of you doing over there? Lin Chen snapped back to reality, excitement shining in his tone. Her name is Qing Yao. She just told me through telepathy. Telepathy? What telepathy? She communicates by transmitting signals directly from her mind to others' brains to convey meaning. Why can she only talk to you, not me? Shen Lingxi sounded distinctly aggrieved. I'll ask her right now. Why are you able to form a mental link with me, but not my companion here? Your bodily aura bears similarities to my kinfolk, yet holds subtle differences of its own. I only attempted contact on a whim, never expecting you would actually receive my signals. So this unique aura within me is the reason for our telepathic connection? Precisely. Lin Chen relayed this entire conversation word for word to Shen Lingxi. Shock washed over her once she heard the full explanation. Lin Chen, does this mean you aren't actually human? Of course I'm human. A theory formed in his mind. Remember I told you a bird's blood dripped onto me the day the apocalypse struck? I'm certain this strange aura is a result of that incident. That makes a reasonable amount of sense. You're the only known survivor exposed to that bird's blood, and you were also the only one who spawned with an oxygen mask from the start. Shen Lingxi marveled at the odd coincidence before urging him onward. Ask her where she comes from, and why she was trapped inside that underwater cave. Lin Chen nodded and refocused his attention on Qing Yao, framing his question through telepathy. Qing Yao, where is your homeland? What led you to that cave where we found you? I originate from the deepest reaches of the ocean trenches. I traveled upward to the shallow ocean layers to search for a critical artifact. What artifact are you looking for? My clan faces an existential crisis. Generations ago, our ancestors sealed a primordial abyssal beast deep within the nether abyss layer. The ancient seal has gradually weakened in recent years, and none of our elders can reinforce its power. My father told me an ancient ruin exists in the shallow seas, housing an artifact called the Abyss Suppressing Vessel. This relic can greatly bolster the failing seal. Why did you set out on this mission alone? My father suspects traitors lurk within our clan, and this crisis stems from their sabotage. He sent me away in secret to complete this mission without drawing the conspirators' notice. Is the entrance to that ancient ruin hidden within the cave we discovered you in? It should be based on my calculations. I had not managed to locate the entry point before you arrived, bringing that massive octopus along with you. Lin Shen scratched the back of his neck sheepishly. Qing Yao's soft mental voice echoed inside his mind once more. Would the two of you accompany me to search for the ruin? Lin Shen fell silent for a beat before turning to relay the request to Shun Lingxi. She's asking if we're willing to go with her. Shun Lingxi slammed her palm against her thigh without a moment's hesitation. We're going, obviously. Since when have you gotten so bold? Lin Shen raised an eyebrow in amusement. Shun Lingxi planted her hands firmly on her hips. She saved our lives once before, after all. Besides, we might stumble across valuable supplies or relics inside that ruin. We do need to repair the submarine first, though. Lin Shen smiled and turned back toward Qing Yao, sending his answer through their mental bond. We will help you on your journey. Joy bloomed across Qing Yao's face, and she stepped forward to embrace Lin Shen in a sincere, grateful hug. Thank you. Shun Lingxi watched the heartfelt gesture with a twinge of discontent stirring in her chest.